So now we can get.
Now to a movie that you wish you had get high to go.
Hey, let's not start dissing Suicide Squad out the gate.
Yes.
I love the movie. I like
it. Yes, we are going to
disagree.
Right. So
wage war over this.
So we have to talk. All right. So we have to talk about the DCEU.
And I think I can launch our collective thoughts on this topic with just one statement.
Mm-hmm.
Man of Steel is very shaky ground to build a cinematic universe out of.
Here's the thing. I disagree with that.
We're off to a great start.
No, I disagree with that. No, okay. So Man of Steel had a bunch of problems. Not denying that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a movie.
I still like it. As
a movie, I said before, it is a movie that had problems, but it was perfectly defensible.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I thought Man of Steel did great world building. From a world building standpoint, great.
Mm-hmm.
It set up the concept of Superman is on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen this thing that could fly. Holy crap!
Yeah.
Everybody collectively shat their pants. Right? Batman v Superman started great with that.
Yeah.
And you know what I loved about Batman v Superman? When they showed the world is introduced to the Superman.
Yeah, I love that piece of text.
They didn't say Superman, you know. They don't call
Superman
by name. They call him the Superman. He's this thing.
Okay.
He's an alien.
Okay,
I like that. That is good world building. That is good deconstruction. What would it mean for Superman to show up in the real world?
Yeah.
Man of Steel had a bunch of problems. I still liked it.
Me too.
I ultimately still like Man of Steel. I didn't hate it anywhere else.
I have the ever so slightly heretical opinion that it actually kind of rivals the Richard Donner movies in
it did its own thing.
A few things. I mean, as far as good superhero movies.
Right.
And despite most people who seem to be convinced that the superhero genre is overrated, needs to end, and whatever. I personally am actually glad we have enough movies at this point where we can actually have this debate.
Yeah.
Personally, so yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know. For me, Man of Steel, I would have been very interested to see a Man of Steel series.
Right. No,
but a whole DC universe.
No, but that's the problem. Okay.
Starting with Man of Steel is a bit of a problem.
No. Okay. So for me, Man of Steel worked as a good starting point. Mm-hmm. They should have had a proper Man of Steel sequel.
Yes. And then bring the Batman thing afterwards.
What you do is you set up Superman, what Superman's relationship is with the world, and who would still, after it's exposed that he's really a good guy, who would still not trust him, simply because he's that powerful.
Right.
That's why you bring in Lex Luthor.
Mm-hmm. And Bruce Wayne.
Not necessarily. Not yet. Maybe. But
maybe as Bruce Wayne, not as Batman.
Right. That's my attitude. Yeah. Okay. So then, for me, Suicide Squad should have followed from something like that. Because Suicide Squad has a script. All the cameos and references was like, they're gonna make this work on its own, right? If it just followed from a Superman movie.
I mean, for you following at home, this was originally not really a standalone movie, but the original thing what happened was that Warner Brothers decided that they were going to do this, cinematic universe thing. So they were scrambling, getting DC properties and matching them with directors and scriptwriters and stuff. And then David Ayer, Training Day, End of Watch, Fury. Who's I think he's in good with the people in Warner Brothers right now. Came up to them and said, "Hey, I've got this inexpensive idea for a DC movie about the Suicide Squad. They're sort of relatively popular characters. It won't cost you too much money, and if I start now, I can have it in this slot." And they were actually looking for a movie to get into production to put in that particular slot, because if you've seen the way the cinematic universe actually works, you're supposed to have these movies working in. And I'm not saying this, any sort of taking anything away from the cinematic universe model, because I like the cinematic universe model. Yeah, but it's supposed to work like a factory. You're supposed to have. If you look at Marvel right now, they've got
it's a TV season.
Exactly. If you look at Marvel right now, they've got Doctor Strange just about ready.
Yeah.
Just about ready. Be in theaters in a bit. They've got one movie in production. The sort of movies you're seeing trailers for, like Guardians 2, is just wrapping, and they're polishing the effects, and then they're shooting Black Panther.
Right.
So the only way you can get a cinematic universe thing to work is to have a whole progression of movies in different stages of development until you can get to the 2 releases a year thing.
Right.
Marvel started with Iron Man, and then if you actually look at the timeline, there was a bit of a break between Marvel, and then they tried Incredible Hulk, and then Iron Man 2, and then I think then we got First Avenger and Thor, or was it the other way around?
First Avenger. No, Thor came on first.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because
Thor came first and then Captain America
because
Captain America led
Captain
to
America,
Avengers.
right? We got Captain America post credits here.
And then Avengers, and then by that point the model picked up enough steam. DC, because they got into the game late, they've been kind of scrambling a little bit to get something.
We talked about this a lot too.
Because they want to compete with Marvel.
Yeah, exactly. But they foolishly played catch up in the wrong way. Yeah. Because nobody telling you, no, you don't have to do that. You don't need to play catch up. Yeah. You could just have the characters and just tell your story.
Yeah. Do your own thing. Stop trying to be like your rival. Yeah. You don't need to.
Yeah.
Your DC, come on.
What also annoys me about the DC cinematic universe is Warner Brothers and DC made their agreement ages ago. I mean, they have had the rights since
since Superman came out,
1970s. In the 70s or even I think 60s, and they have had this entire library of DC characters, and they have sat on them. We've had Batman and Superman movies for the conceivable future for ages and ages and ages and ages, and they've just been sitting and sitting. Maybe and DC, the television stuff they've been kind of giving bits and letting it go.
But that's the thing. This is what I was utterly baffled by. Because with the DC cinematic universe, the canary in the coal mine was for me was Green Lantern. 2011. That was a movie. No, because here's the big. We talk about this with Batman, with Superman. The big mystery about that movie for me was why was it so bad? And First Flight, the animated movie, came out 2 years before.
Yeah,
and was a solid movie.
Much better.
Yeah. Right, solid movie.
Ridiculously good.
Right, it was basically Training Day in space. It was a solid premise. It worked. It wasn't great. It wasn't brilliant. I give it about 6 out of 10.
Yeah, but it
had a proper structure.
Purpose,
and a proper structure. And then they come with this Green Lantern after, and it's like, why is it that you could just take a similar or that same script and just do this in the movie form?
We will talk about this with Suicide Squad.
And here's my theory, and I have no clear evidence, so I have to do extra research to find it. But I suspect that WB and DC's internal structure is even more difficult contract-wise to pull off. That's why they can't get scripts, because people simply won't, because it's not a contract. Internally, they have. I get a feeling that they have that internal ecosystem of contracts and IP law and just the usual, lawyer shenanigans.
That would make sense, because DC as a company has bought hundreds of smaller comic book companies over the years.
But the thing is, they didn't have to fight to get back into characters.
That's why they had the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Right.
Because by that point, DC had acquired the libraries of several dozen comic book companies, and decided to put everything in one universe because it was all such a huge mess.
And they could do what they want with it. And for them to just have a complete mess of a script, why does that Alan Burnett not part of this? Why does that not, you get people who miss him, loved him to death when he was alive, people like Dwayne McDuffie or something like that. All these people who worked on Justice League, where are these people in terms of the writing?
Retired.
No, but seriously, just simple consultancy. They finally got Jeff Johns to come on board. And he's still not going to salvage this, in my opinion. There's still going to be a mess. I still know what's going on. So
I think the closest thing to that is not even quite, but I think the closest thing they got was they got the guy who voiced Constantine in that short-lived series to play him in the animated Justice League Dark movie. That's the closest thing.
But here's the thing. No, again, here's why it's still baffling. Because the TV people have this shit together.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Right? Greg
Arrow,
Berlanti,
Flash.
Right. Berlanti, what we call the Berlanti universe essentially, which is
Greg, move your head. Come on.
You mean those? I was thinking the cartoon. I was thinking you're talking about the animated stuff or the live action.
No, the live action.
Live action
okay,
stuff.
no, I'm thinking about the animated stuff because I'm just thinking because my thing is people whenever you talk to people about
the animated people have this shit together for sure. Although they're messing it up nowadays, but
the old guard is left.
Right. Well, Bruce Timm did this thing recently, which we had an argument about Killing Joke.
Killing Joke, yeah.
Right, but the thing is, what's shocking me about me is that the TV people have this shit together, right? Well, Arrow's suffering right now. A lot of people hating on Arrow, but it's still have Arrow fans.
Well, I mean, I'm still playing catch up with that, but is it because it's being too superheroic now, bringing in more characters?
It's the opposite. It's too much shipping.
Oh.
Too much shipping. They're wasting too much time on relationships and that's the bullshit. So it just wastes too much time on it. So it kind of become a soap opera, which is the usual CW trap.
Yeah. Smallville,
yeah.
10 seasons.
That's a bullshit.
10 seasons.
They could have squeezed.
That's how long it lasted.
Yeah,
10 seasons.
That's 10 seasons.
No, it was supposed to stop at the 5th one.
I saw one episode of that show once, and it was one where he loses his power.
Yeah, the show.
Yeah, it was supposed to stop at the 5th one with the graduation. I thought that was the end. No, we have to show what happened when they leave.
And here in Metropolis, they still call it this one.
Lois
And he becomes Superman at the end.
at the very end.
And the suit was looking terrible. I was like, oh, Jesus.
And then
Hang
on
on,
top
hang
of
on,
all
hang
that,
on,
they
hang
take the John Williams team and play it at the very end. Like, come on,
How do you
slap
do
to my face.
How do you do 10 seasons? You only become Superman at the very end. But if I remember
don't
anything from what I've
know.
looked up at the wikis of this show,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah, all the
already
characters.
met
Everybody.
everyone in the universe.
Yeah, listen, Smallville had Earth 3 in it, you know. Yes. Ultraman was in an episode. I was like, dude, do Ultraman and still mess this up? How do you,
Yeah. Do the quote. Do the quote.
how do you fuck that up? How? Issue of violence. You can't,
What else? But there's Supergirl as well, to which I actually like.
That's the thing. The TV universe is done in a particular tone, right? Flash is solid, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Supergirl is pretty solid, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Arrow suffered. It started great first season as it was solid, but it got really bad.
Yeah,
Legends of
Legends of Tomorrow
is really shaky, but
Yeah.
it has a lot of good ideas.
Yes.
I hope season 2 they fix a lot
Yeah,
of
they
that
had
stuff.
to pick back up.
But you see,
it started off kind of really rocky.
It
and
is.
then
It is
kind
shaky.
of
It's
picked
a
up.
very shaky. It's a very shaky
Yeah.
issue, and it's still like the finale was still kind of shaky and kind of rushed, but whatever.
But let me.
But the
we
thing is-
even
the
mentioned.
thing is-
That's how we even mentioned Gotham, though. I mean,
Right.
we know we talk about
Right,
CW
and then
stuff,
right,
but
I was about to get to that.
yeah, Gotham
The Fox
season 2
people doing
actually.
this stuff too.
like,
Lucifer.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Same thing. Yeah.
DC, they're getting this stuff done, so the TV people know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I still like watching like why it is that the movie people just messing up this. No, with Man of Steel was just like Batman Begins. You expect it to be that way. It was Batman Begins. You have to do Superman Begins. That's what they do. They told the story. Man of Steel suffered from problems. I knew what I knew what they should have changed, but whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. So with Man of Steel, we're gonna get this, and then we're gonna get basically the Superman equivalent of the Dark Knight. Everything is gonna be
But then
everything
the
is not
cinematic universe.
right. Everything was much more polished. No, you can still have a cinematic universe, you know. But everything, and then something happened.
No.
They started to panic. Don't know
That's
what
what I
happened.
think happened.
No, I think it's because
honestly-
Marvel were doing so much great things.
Yeah.
Like
Here's the
every
thing,
movie
here's
they
the
were
thing.
bringing out after Avengers was
Have
so
you-
well received. So they're like,
But I'm
oh
saying,
well,
have
shit,
you-
we have to do
so yeah,
something.
but if you look at the Marvel numbers for a minute, and considering they're getting 2 movies every year,
Right.
and each movie's bringing in even the ones that people think are
No.
average,
Yeah.
or
Still
whatever,
doing good.
Yeah,
are
I
still
think
making near billion.
I think it's
Yes.
when Guardians of the Galaxy hit. That's
That's
when
when-
DC
that's
was
when
like,
they-
oh
that's
no.
when they worried. Yeah,
You see,
because-
guys, we can't.
No, we have
can't
to do
take our
some
time
now.
with
Yeah,
this
because
anymore.
because that's the thing with Guardians. Guardians was meant to be the bad gamble. That was
Yeah.
the one that's whoa.
Nobody knew who these characters were.
Right,
I
everybody
know.
was like,
What
who
was
is
the
this?
complete
biggest
wild card.
biggest
Yeah.
success of that
You
year?
get in this sort of indie horror director
Right.
with trauma connections.
Trauma connections. Yeah.
And to do a comic book series that
That's
no one
all
had ever heard
square,
of.
yeah.
Obscure
And
as
they
hell.
just get it done.
You get
And
Chris
it-
Pratt
and
and
it
all
was-
these other
and it was
actors.
considered
Oh yeah,
one of
Lloyd
the
Kaufman
great-
was in the movie. Yeah, he had a little cameo.
Oh,
And then
really?
he
In
did.
prison. Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Oh, he was in the prison scene?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
didn't
Lloyd
pick up on it.
Kaufman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Wow.
And
Shit.
kids don't look up trauma. Just
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
don't.
Toxic Avenger.
Dude, Toxic Avenger for life, yo.
Yeah.
The first one, the second and third.
No,
Anyway.
but anyway, ultimately, I think DC just panicked.
Yeah.
And then I was sitting down. I remember in our Comic Con, they get Harry, what's his name, the General, to come out.
Oh, the actor from Man of Steel,
Man of
right?
Steel,
him.
shit, what's his name, boy?
Um,
He was in Matrix.
That guy-
Yeah,
oh, really?
he
Yeah,
play,
he's
The
back.
guy who plays General Zod?
No,
Oh,
badass
no.
black, the black general.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He, I forget his name. He come out and he started reading the same dialogue from Dark Knight Returns.
Rises.
No, Returns.
Returns from the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's like, remember this moment, so and so. And you hear this one dude in the audience, yeah, because he immediately knew what it was now. And I immediately knew what it was when they started watching, because I was watching it live in the stream. And I was like, oh shit, they're actually gonna do Batman vs Superman. Batman gonna be the next one. And then the guy's only guy didn't know. He just read it. And then they just showed the symbol. And everybody shit their pants, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, immediately, I was like, my initial nerd reaction was, wait, they're gonna do this.
Yeah, they're
Initial
actually
nerd
gonna be
reaction.
courageous enough to
And
do
then I
it.
was thinking, but that's a bad sign.
Not me though.
No.
Mainly because for me, I am not a big Batman fan.
No,
I
no,
am
no.
not
What?
the biggest. No, I am.
I'm not a bad.
I
no.
think that there is.
I am.
I think.
No, I'm
I
a
think.
more
I think DC is. I mean, Batman is to me personally to blame for Warner Brothers' attitude as far as
Yes.
superhero goes,
Yes.
because
You're talking about the Dark Knight trilogy, right?
I'm looking at the Dark Knight
Oh,
trilogy.
yeah.
I'm looking at even as far back as the Burton movies
yeah,
and
Batman
Schumacher
Forever
and stuff.
Yeah.
The early superhero craze that fell on self-parody before it was even really off the ground.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It feels like Batman is so popular. They realize they came to the I don't know, idiotic conclusion that superhero movies have to be
Right.
either grounded or apologetic,
Right.
which I hated, which is why I
Yeah.
love The Shadow, by the way, because that is
Yeah.
an unapologetic, pulpy superhero movie, and it is
Yeah.
glorious.
Yeah.
I don't know, but my feel is that Batman, it's like he's their safest bet. So
Yeah.
whenever their interest in comics is slagging, Batman.
Right.
Batman.
Right.
I mean, that's
But
actually
but
one of the things
what
I-
about the argument with Batman and Robin? Look at the space of time between that flop and Batman Begins.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I know, but here's the thing.
That was a gamble.
They had the animated series.
I understand,
I
understand,
Oh,
your point,
yeah.
understand your point, because I was about to get into that. I was about to make a similar point you're saying.
Good
which is
point, actually.
They show that they didn't trust Superman.
because we gotta get Batman in there because Batman's the most popular. I mean,
Exactly.
and you can always tell
But it
that with
didn't-
DC because look at something else for a minute. Justice League Dark.
Yes.
Guillermo del Toro came to them with a script and even a few actors and people who were interested and said, "I want to make a Justice League Dark movie." And DC,
Yeah.
and it was the exact same scenario as David Ayer with Suicide Squad.
Right.
He came to them with the project, everything thought of, but Warner Brothers was nervous about the idea, so they kind of, you know, they told him, "Oh, we'll see." And this being Del Toro, he has other projects. So he had to move on to something else. He said he regretted it, so he could go on to make Pacific Rim 2 and look where that project went. But now they're doing the animated movie, and and I was watching the promo for this because I was watching some of the Comic-Con trailers on YouTube
Right.
and stuff,
Yeah.
and I was looking, and they got Swamp Thing. I was excited.
Right.
Swamp Thing, the Demon, Constantine,
Etrigan?
Zatanna,
Etrigan,
Etrigan, the Demon,
Yeah.
Swamp, Dead Man, and Batman. What?
Right.
And,
Why Batman?
And I scrolled through the comments. That was the universal reaction. Everyone went, "What the hell is Batman doing here?" And then you listen to the people talk about Batman. He's like us. He's a bit cautious about this magic thing. He doesn't know about it. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
Yeah.
Why?
I know, but that's the thing. They show
Because
that-
everybody loves Batman.
Yeah,
That's why.
yeah, you're right. But you know, I kind of consider Batman the Steve Urkel of the franchise, which is he's the best thing ever to happen to the. You know, it's like what Steve Urkel was to Family Matters.
Yeah,
He's
like,
the best
like
thing.
Family Matters stop being about the Windsors and more about.
He's the best thing that happened to the show, but he's the worst thing at the same time creatively because it's just this ridiculous thing now.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, you're right because one of the biggest problems I always had because even with Justice League, I had a big problem with Batman being the logistical core of Justice League. Because even if you're a billionaire, you're still not going to be some logistical core when it comes to these kind of powers, the grander DC powers. Give me a break. Like for me, if it's anybody who should be a core, would be somebody like Aquaman, Wonder Woman. You know, they have whole
Planners.
kingdoms. They have whole kingdoms involved. Is the logistical things is that you should have a more that makes sense from a logistical standpoint. You have the entire Themyscira, you have the entire of Atlantis, you have that as a foundation. I don't care how much money you have, you're still a damn human. With
Exactly,
human
you
science.
have human shit to do.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
human.
So that never made sense to me. Like, oh, even if you spend money on a space station, think of what? That didn't really
You
work.
gotta get married, man. Come on.
Whatever. But the point is, the
Batman is a sign they're nervous.
exactly, and it's,
Yes.
it's a bad sign. And the second I saw it, I was like, all right, I want to see Batman versus Superman, but I don't trust you with this material. That means
Yeah.
that you don't trust Superman as a character.
Because that's
Yeah.
actually my biggest disappointment. Because they were kicking around the idea of a Man of Steel 2 and then Batman versus Superman. And my
Right.
first thing was, but I wanted Man of Steel 2.
Thank you.
Because
Yeah.
I'm wanting a DC, because I love the DC universe. I actually like them better than Marvel. So,
Right.
Okay.
And this is
No,
something
yeah.
I'll touch. This is something I actually touch on a little bit later. There's this kind of DCEU fan base who are kind of growing at the moment, who are mainly people who like DC comics, and have been. I feel like they kind of feel guilty about liking all the Marvel movies because they're so much
Right.
better. So the minute DC began making their
Yeah,
own
yeah.
universe, they latch onto them, and I kind of feel that a little bit, but at the same time,
I feel bad.
I
for-
can see what's going on.
Here's
but
the thing.
I
I have
can't
no.
do that.
I give no quarter to people who defend bad rubbish. So
No.
if you look, you have to call a spade a spade. I
Right.
totally understand why you come in. You would want to defend DC. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sorry, these movies are bad, and they don't seem to get why these movies don't work as a movie.
Exactly.
Telling a story.
All they just see is just, oh, it's Batman,
Right.
it's fighting
And-
Superman.
and they
Wow,
say,
how
oh,
can you not like
and
that?
then they'll point it, and you know they act as if you ignorant of the material. So they'll say, oh, well, you know that was from this comic. Yes, I know. I read the
Yeah.
comic. I know.
And,
Stop saying
and
that.
they just love to make that comparison.
Oh,
We
yeah.
see like how Marvel is always so bright and
No,
always
forget
so
that. Yeah,
colorful.
forget that.
This is different.
you're
Come
not-
on, man.
you're not
But Marvel,
Yeah,
Marvel, they
but-
made the smart move.
Exactly.
Marvel, they put the nerds in charge.
Right.
Yes.
Joss Whedon,
Yeah.
even Jon Favreau to a degree, who did
Favreau,
the first
yeah.
Iron Man.
Well, first and
originally
second,
James
yeah.
Gunn, the guy who did Ant-Man, who they got to replace Edgar Wright. He's
Right.
actually a really
Yeah.
big fan of the comics, and
Right.
he was ecstatic
Yeah.
to get to
Yeah.
work on this material.
I look
another
at,
thing-
like, for
another thing I
example, the
noticed-
guy who's writing Doctor Strange. I forgot the guy that you mentioned last week.
See Robert Cargill.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a super nerd. No, but
Exactly.
here's the thing,
You don't get more nerdy than Joss Whedon.
but there's a cultural aspect to there's my thing to it. There's a cultural aspect to the DC movies, and you get this weird feeling from it where it's you see it with the TV shows where it's this people look good and they're celebrities, but they don't get why the material aesthetically works. And there's a really funny line, a funny comic you could find on the internet where it's showing Brie Larson and Chadwick Boseman sitting down on their couches reading the character comics. So Brie Larson is reading Captain Marvel, and Chadwick Boseman is reading Black Panther. They're sitting down reading the comics, and then they show Aquaman and what's her name? Wonder Woman. Who's the actress?
Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot and Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa. They're in the gym, being in the gym, and they're looking hot and sexy.
Oh,
And it's
I see what you're
and
getting
it's, you can tell there's this weird cultural divide where look, these movies look good,
Yeah.
I'm not denying that, but in my opinion, Man of Steel look damn good. Outfits were smart choices. They but
Although some people will kind of tune up for the color palette and all that.
no, that's
stuff.
no. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
No, here's the thing
Like
about that.
It's
I'm
supposed to
the
be
first picture of
bright,
Aquaman.
man.
No, I'm gonna call out that bullshit because you have people who on the internet like to say, "Oh, look, we colored Superman, and look, this is how Man of Steel look." And
Yeah,
they
yeah, I
recolored-
saw that video,
And they
yeah.
deliberately tone down the color of Man of Steel to say this is how dull Man of Steel actually look, and it did not look that dull. Stop bullshitting. And then they'll use their little shitty, oh, well, we just opened the Vinci Resolve and put in a lot, and therefore that's how we color. And the color looking like shit, and they say, oh, Man of Steel should have more color. It's like, no, I get why they made that choice.
Although you have to admit, the first Aquaman picture with the kind of weird shades of gray and then the black.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm actually kind of excited for Aquaman
Okay.
because it's got this weird Conan the Barbarian
Right.
vibe right off the
If
bat.
they play it off like that,
Right.
that'll be great, especially with the lead that
But
they
I
have.
kind of
and
disappointed.
Jason Momoa looks
I'm
awesome.
already disappointed with the story because I heard they're going to Black Manta already, and to me,
That's a rumor. James Wan has denied that.
okay, really.
James
so-
Wan is
so-
James
because to me-
Wan is
to me,
denied that
if
it's
you're
Black
starting,
Manta.
sorry, if you're starting Aquaman, you have to go Ocean Master first.
Which is actually one of my problems with Suicide Squad,
Right.
which is the villain, because
Yeah.
I feel that for the scale of this movie, they used a villain that was too cosmic,
Right,
too
but it, and
big.
it, but it
We
had
will
it,
get to
and
the
it-
villain in
But
a
it had
bit.
it backward because so we just start now actually talking about Suicide Squad. Batman vs Superman's a complete disaster. It was, in my opinion, again.
Yeah, and
hyperbole incoming.
and
that
Ricardo
was a
just
war
loves to bring it up every
Yeah,
time.
that movie is a complete war crime for me, and it was total nonsense, complete rubbish.
I was actually divisive by, well, I'm not telling you this,
Yeah.
Claude. Yeah, I saw the good in it and I also saw the bad in it. But for me, the bad was just so glaring
Egregiously
that I can't just shut my brain off and be like, well, it's Batman versus Superman.
No.
No, I have to call it what it was,
Yeah.
you know?
I haven't seen it yet, folks, for home, and only because
That's fine,
when
actually.
you have a movie that's 2 hours long and the director's cut is about 3 hours,
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
missing a
But-
lot.
Yes, it's sad. Well, I don't want to spoil it for you, but
lot.
I don't want to spoil it for you, but yeah, it's not that much different. But well,
It isn't, unfortunately.
yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
It doesn't.
They
matter.
tried to
It
do a
doesn't-
Watchmen, but you see, Watchmen as it was great. The
Exactly.
story was so great that you could watch the theatrical cut, ultimate cut, whatever. It's still awesome.
Right.
The Ultimate Cut's
Yeah,
best
did the
for him.
same thing with
And this is
ultimate
this
cut is best for me.
Right.
This is Snyder again.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But okay. So with Suicide Squad, because I think because of Batman v Superman and all my bile and energy and indignation and hatred went to that, I just went into Suicide Squad with the lowest of expectations. I just went down to minus
I think
273.
you were the only one.
You know,
'Cause this,
yeah, I
this
went
was the
down-
most hyped movie of the year.
Exactly.
Because
Dude, you went to Atlantis level.
No, yeah, I went to Mariana's Trench, minus 273.15 degrees, like absolute zero, and I didn't hate this as much. Mostly because I just had fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is
Me
that fun
too.
with
Me
it?
too. Me too.
My journey.
But the
to-
thing is, the
Okay.
script, objectively, in some ways, it's kind of worse than Batman v Superman. Little incoherent.
I will,
Little incoherent, you
Yeah.
see.
Yeah,
Alright.
a little bit.
My thing with this movie, my journey with this movie was weird because I try to keep I follow most studios and who I like. Like for example, I try to keep an eye on Disney's output because I'm a big Disney fan.
Yeah.
I knew
Right.
about Pete's Dragon remake about
Right, yeah.
a year before it happened, and I knew about Momoa. And I kind of follow a lot of development.
Yeah.
So with DC, first thing I heard was Suicide Squad, and I didn't even know what Suicide Squad, the original concept, was.
Right.
So I kind of looked that up, and for those of you who don't know, the basic idea is it's the government, in the DC universe, the government has a prison where they lock away some of the supervillains. Actually, they lock away any of the supervillains they can catch. So and occasionally they'll have a mission, some sort of black ops government type mission, where they will take some of these supervillains, put sort of chips in their necks that will explode. Sort of think Escape from New York, and send and sort of because you can't really direct these guys. Basically, point them in the direction of something they want done, and they'll throw in a chaperone. Most times it's Rick Flag, but sometimes they'll throw in a hero, like Batman or someone like that. And that's the concept. And I looked that up and thought, okay, this make an interesting movie. Right. And then I saw that first picture, and that's when I actually got excited because I loved that image. There was something about because my problem with DC is I feel like they've been kind of holding back as far as because I love DC for the craziness. I love that you get Atlantis and Themyscira with the lost city of Amazons. You go out in the jungles of Africa because this is comic books because you go out there you find the city of talking gorillas, and I love the crazy side of DC. So when I saw this picture and there was Enchantress and El Diablo and Katana, who I never thought was going to be in a movie, Katana and Killer Croc and all this stuff, I was just blown. And they made it sort of real. It's not realistic, but they made it believable. It's believable. It's not really larger than life. This is a very street level movie, which is very weird, but cool. Actually, that's one of the things I love about one praise I will give to this movie right off the bat. The production design and concept. This is a very I don't know if gangster is the right word.
I don't know. Okay, so I like
for.
Yeah. So okay, no, you're right. No, okay, so two things. Okay, so the movie I'm marginally familiar with the Suicide Squad. Barely read the comics, a couple comics. What's his name? Where he was featured in the movie, Joel F. Orphiston, I think is the guy's name. He's the guy who basically reinvented Suicide Squad for the modern times. And the modern incarnation of it. And then when Bruce Timm and them did Harley Quinn, she was eventually added later on.
She was in Assault from Arkham, right? The animated movie.
Yeah.
She wasn't directed, she was in that. But so the Assault on Arkham movie came in. A lot of people liked it.
I enjoyed it.
Reasonably well received. It had one plot problem I had issue. For the most part, it was solid, and it had some genuinely funny moments and great character moments in it.
It kind of falls into the weird trend of proof of concept before live action thing
and
that DC is doing.
Once again, we had the situation like Green Lantern, where you have an animated movie, and then you have it's like, why did you couldn't do something at least like this?
I'll talk about it. They did attempt at it early on,
that's the thing.
Which makes me very nervous for Justice League Dark if they ever do it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing. So. The template now, they have the story. Now the Suicide Squad story again, you explained it perfectly with the Black Ops thing.
Yeah.
The problem is that this movie illustrated the justification for it as being kind of ridiculous. Because if you're saying that you need to take on something like Superman, and then you're going to get the Suicide Squad to do that, from a power level standpoint, none of that makes sense. Harley Quinn,
especially with the characters,
exactly.
You mean freaking Captain
Boomerang. Out of the entire Suicide Squad, there's only 3 people who could probably take on a Krypton.
Oh yeah,
right?
El Diablo.
And Diablo maybe and it's only because his demon form is magic. So technically, I suppose Kryptonians are vulnerable to magic in this universe. And I assume Enchantress herself, and then Deadshot with kryptonite bullets.
Yes,
that's it.
And can I just say, for those of you who are complaining about people, because there are people complaining about Will Smith as Deadshot. I like him. I actually think this is because I only recently saw movies like Independence Day and the Men in Black trilogy and things like that, and I kind of figured out his popularity. But I have to say, honestly speaking, this was one of my favorite roles of his performances because he himself said in an interview it was refreshing to not have to be the moral center of the movie.
Right. Yeah.
Which is great because
although he still kind of was, but whatever.
Yeah. Not quite. I mean.
At a few moments, it was kind of like it all kind of rests on him.
So it was pretty much him and Rick Flag was really 2 good people.
Yeah.
And even in a relative sense, I mean, they kind of turned him into this sort of Han Solo type character, which I think is the darkest Will Smith has ever gone. Yeah. Even over something like I Am Legend, where his character was supposedly gray.
But what I like about Will Smith's character is that he was playing like the street man. Like I mean, let's say the whole film was a joke. He was just that one guy who kind of spoke for the audience. Like, this don't make any sense. All they hiring us and all they gun kind of fuck us.
So the biggest
he was also funny as well.
Yeah. So the 2 biggest So that's the first problem with the script. Script was topsy-turvy.
Oh man.
It's a very topsy-turvy script because what they should have done is say, okay, you get the Suicide Squad to acquire something that could take on Superman.
Yes.
Not the Suicide Squad themselves to take on Superman. At no point that makes sense. And then what it should have been is that the whole story should have been about getting Enchantress. or fight.
Oh, yeah.
Or something
Yeah.
like that.
Oh, yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah. So Enchantress in this is ridiculously powerful.
She is.
She went to Iran and back in a
Yes,
matter of
I remember that.
moments. Holy shit! I was like,
Which I actually thought that was kind of. I was funny that you got the U.S. general because Amanda Waller, who's the brains behind this whole project,
Yeah.
is pitching this to the U.S. Board of People, and then I'm sorry, maybe it's the Michael Cimino in me, but I love that bit where there's this one guy. Oh, I don't know about this. This is like a security risk. Poof, poof.
Yeah.
Iraq military secrets. Oh, how many $1 million do you want for this?
And that whole sequence was really solidly done. Like I love the part where they introduced Enchantress for the first time.
Yeah, I like
with
that
the hand
transformation.
thing.
The hand thing,
Yes.
that was brilliant.
Awesome.
That was
Really well done. Gil, she to make the sign of the cross.
Yeah.
Classic stuff. And that was like, okay, so they have some good character stuff. Viola Davis as Amanda Waller.
Yes, Amanda Waller.
Yes.
Great.
Solid.
Great.
So
Loved
solid.
it.
There was
Loved it.
a couple things that she did. I guess we could get to like a
Oh,
spoiler,
no, she was
spoiler section.
She was a little
Yeah.
too dark for the character.
Yes.
They made her much darker than she's supposed to be, in my opinion. A little too dark.
That's a little racist, but
Well, no, yeah. But you have a point. You have a point. Yeah. But no,
Yeah.
her character I thought
too
was
black.
she was really solid.
I thought she was amazing.
Yeah.
Because
She was so disturbing
here's the
and
thing.
scary and immoral.
And yes,
And they made that work.
and for me, because they do such a good job of showing up that the squad,
Right.
they're not really people you can take on, constructive missions. They're just
Right.
people you have to point in the right direction.
Right.
And then Rick Flag and his bunch are just there to make sure they don't stray
Right.
too
But
far.
here's a mistake with the movie. Two things. Again, the second mistake. Too many of the Suicide Squad members were here.
well, what?
Too many of the Suicide Squad members were here. Now we know Suicide Squad is a big crew,
Oh yeah.
but they couldn't introduce everybody. So what they should have done is cut the crew in half.
Okay, what I would have done, and this is something I was thinking with the movie,
Right.
was because I think the way it works in the comics is they have they have a sort of a collective
It's an Ocean's
number.
11 type scenario where everybody have a particular set of skills to fit.
And then they pick the people who they need for the particular
Right.
mission, which I think they should have done. 'Cause, for example, one thing I didn't like about this movie is how we open with Will Smith.
and they introduced Will Smith 3 times in this movie.
Yes.
Yes, and that was a huge problem.
That was one
I
thing
think
with
it
that
was
show.
Get it easy
Just
start,
the
but
only.
We have an
Yeah.
opening shot with the prison, and then we have the Will Smith's character being introduced, and then Harley Quinn's character being introduced in a scene that I don't
Yes,
know. That scene was just a bit weird.
And the music
Yeah.
just jumping. And again, we know why they did this because of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, we have
Because
to have
they
all
a bunch of hit songs,
these pop
pop songs.
and stuff. Yeah.
But
and then from there we go to Amanda Waller
Right.
having the kind of meeting, and then at that meeting she produces a collection of files on
Right.
each of the
And then they
members of the
introduce
thing,
Deadshot again.
and then they introduce
Deadshot
everyone
again.
again. They
Again,
introduce,
right.
they introduce everyone again with a little flashback, with little sequences,
Yeah.
sort of this kind of Guy Ritchie style
Yeah, and,
intro scene to everybody except Swan.
Right. Well, about those sequences, I was gonna talk about that. I saw what they were going for. Like, I like the Guy Ritchie kind of style, and
Yeah.
the visuals, and how you see like some information background about the characters.
And
I
they
get
did,
that.
and they did some nice world building because so they do Deadshot intro where they show all the weapons scaling down.
Yeah.
I love that.
And
Yeah. When they introduce Harley, they show murder of Robin.
Yes.
I was like,
like, wait,
nice.
serious?
Nice world building right there.
But the problem with that now is I felt like, especially for Harley Quinn's character, as Margot Robbie, by the way,
Great performance.
good performance. It lingered
Although-
too long on
too much time.
on the relationship between her and Joker. Like I like the first part where Joker comes in and he does that line, "I'm gonna hurt you really bad." I
Right.
like that. But then there's a second instance where they were at this club,
Right.
The
and
strip
Common
club.
is there.
Oh, the other
I was like, wait,
gangster.
oh shit, that's cool.
Right, no, okay, so
Can I
here's-
just
here's
say
the
it's
thing.
weird? Can I just say it's also weird to actually see, because we know that Joker is supposed to be a crime boss, but it's actually weird in this movie to see him do things like meet other gangsters in a club and things
Right.
like
Yeah.
that.
No,
Yeah.
that's why I didn't mind this because so they had Joker more like the crime boss,
Yeah.
but you get the sense of the crime boss world being built up, and you get a sense of
Yeah.
history because remember this is the old Batman. This is not Joker in the early days. This is Joker established power.
Yeah.
So that kind of worked, and the idea that Joker went missing for a while, clearly because Joker, I'm glad we have you back, and well, he went missing because of when Carly was captured, he couldn't find her from since then.
Yeah.
Workable edit, although it didn't make sense, and
Yeah.
it's like, all right, whatever, Batman, blah blah blah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I like the part where they did the whole crazy unstable gangster. That worked.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't compare him to Heath Ledger because Heath Ledger is pure anarchist. This one is he's a total
Or
psychopath.
even like Jack Nicholson's joke.
Yeah,
Right.
it's actually like a little more for the two of them. Like
Yeah.
both Jack Nicholson and
It's
Heath Ledger
basically
together.
unstable mafia now. And they had that part with Common is like, you don't want no beef, no beef. That was funny.
Yeah.
And
But-
then Harley Quinn is there, and clearly it's Harley Quinn is Debbie Harry. They clearly do a kind of Debbie Harry / who's this guy who died the other day? Duncan Jones' dad.
Dr. Jones.
Duncan Jones' dad.
Oh, Duncan Jones' dad.
David Bowie.
Oh, David
Right.
Wood, right?
So you get the David Bowie, Debbie Harry kind of thing going on, and it's like, all right, cool. So is this lovers, but is Bonnie and Clyde kind of scene?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is I just felt that one particular scene is dragged on. And okay.
And on.
Yes, and on.
And
All right.
on.
Now we can make the argument now because they do rope in
Jared Leto.
No.
That's
No,
all.
no,
They
no,
do rope in Batman in those
story,
those intros, right?
Yeah.
For Deadshot and Harley Quinn.
Right.
More particularly, you see when he captures them.
Right.
But you could have just cut to the part where Joker and Harley were in the purple Lamborghini. Yes, and as you saw in that plays in the background,
Yeah.
Rick Ross and Skrillex. Yes.
Which I hate.
No, the song is silly, but it's Skrillex's music that saves it. Save it.
I don't mind. My thing with the sequences is they were longer, but they feel longer.
Right.
Because they had those opening scenes with Harley Quinn and Deadshot. If you're,
Yeah.
for my thing, they should have. It felt like David Ayer was of two minds. He went into this. How am I going to introduce all these characters? Well, I could have a sort of a day at the prison scene,
Right.
where I have all the guards going about their daily business, showing all these crazy people all in their cells and stuff.
Right.
Or I could do this. Amanda Waller's there. She kind of does this Guy Ritchie style
Right.
pitch
Intro.
with
Yeah,
the
exactly.
files.
And they
But
couldn't
then
pick one.
but then he couldn't pick one.
You can pick one. Yeah.
And we
Yeah,
could-
so you just threw in both.
Yeah.
Basically.
Which made it a bit messy. Yeah,
That's
I
probably-
don't like that. I don't.
And then on top of that, they didn't introduce other characters. So they had
Yeah.
Adam Beach. Slipknot, nothing. Just shows
He
up.
just came and went.
Just
I
showed
didn't
up.
even
I mean,
realize he was there, to be honest.
No, here's the thing. That whole scene with Boomerang and him.
That was
Boomerang,
necessary though.
That's in the comic. That's straight to the comic.
Okay.
But the thing is, it was so dumb though, and they could have do that with another character.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But here's the
The
David
samurai
Ayer.
character shouldn't have been in this. at all.
Katana.
And it's how they brought her in.
No, I think-
No, there was a moment in the
She
show
didn't
where
need to
I didn't even remember that she was in it. Like I saw like a couple of images of her, but I was just like, all right, well maybe she'll come in at some point in time. Oh wait, before we leave, here's Katana. It was
Wow.
real sloppy.
Yeah, that was really,
I
that
mean,
was
very
I
sloppy.
mean, I kind of like the idea that because they're not Task Force X yet, they have to bring everyone in from all the different prisons. That by the end of the movie, they're all kept in one facility. But
Right.
they did it a little bit too sloppily.
It
and
was
I
like
feel
an
that-
afterthought. Oh wait, we have this one chick
And-
with a samurai sword with her
Yeah.
husband's soul
Right.
inside. Let's bring her in.
And
That's
they're
what
giving
it
us
felt
story,
like.
They're giving us story.
And my thing was with Katana was frustrating because if you're going to be the mysterious character that everyone spends the whole thing kind of looking at and going, well, who's this person?
Yeah.
Yeah,
do
who's
that.
this
Yeah.
weird chick
But if
talking
you're-
with a sword now?
Exactly.
Don't give us
But the
story.
problem is they explained too much of it to make
Exactly.
her mysterious. Because I
Right.
had plenty of bits with her just being silent, or
Right.
my two favorite moments of hers were the one bit where everyone starts turning on Rick Flag, and then she just steps in front of him and starts drawing her sword, and he
Right.
sort of steady on moment. And then the other bit later when everything goes wrong and they all go to have a drink, and she just turns and leaves.
Yeah.
That's always
That was
funny.
funny,
That was
yeah,
funny.
that was funny.
But my thing with her is that it's like they were like Ayer, and I'm putting all the blame on him with this because he wrote this. He wrote and directed. That's the problem with being a writer-director. On the one hand, you get all the credit. On the other hand, you get all the credit.
Yeah.
So
Good one.
yeah, exactly. So it felt like again he was of two minds. Explain this character like everyone else, or kind of introduce her or kind of introduce her as the kind of mysterious one that everyone spends the whole thing wondering about. And the other thing with Adam Beach's character, Slipknot, was I read recently that they filmed an intro. They filmed a file sequence for
Right.
him.
Why? And they cut out.
Why
No,
they
but
cut-
but
why
Ayer,
they cut it out?
That's what I'm saying. Ayer, I read this in an interview because someone was asking him that question. Ayer said that he felt like it would be kind of he felt like it was cheap to try and misdirect the audience like that, especially when after opening
Oh,
night.
we'll talk about misdirection in a bit.
Especially
Go
since
on.
when after opening night, the secret would be out already because it's the internet.
Right.
So there'd be no point in trying to misdirect the audience. Wouldn't have. I don't quite buy that. I mean,
I don't
they
buy-
could
I
have
don't
at
buy it.
least put in that one scene. I mean, it wouldn't have hurt to do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
And on the other, because in the movie he just kind of shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just shows up.
And he punch a woman.
No,
Punches-
just
and-
just out of the blue, like why?
Okay.
No, she says he's scum or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Scum.
right.
All the other squad members all
That's just
start.
shut him out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Claude. Well, good thing you brought up. How the characters are being introduced, and to me, this is like one of the biggest flaws about this movie, though. Character development.
Yeah.
It's all over the place.
Compare to say Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
You're seeing these characters for the first time in your life.
But
they're not gonna stop the whole show and tell you, okay, this is Groot. This is what Groot is. This is what he is. Blah blah blah. Blah. This is not
It's a bit
Raccoon, whatever his name is. I'll forget the name.
Raccoon.
Raccoon. Right. Yeah. But what I'm getting at is that they just give you these intros, and you're supposed to know as much as you can about it, and then jump into the story, and then just out of the blue, and I blame this on bad writing. They have this moment where they kind of stop the mission and go into this bar just to chill and talk, and then you get character development there. You could have developed it throughout.
They could have. No. I kind of liked that scene because I love the idea that right in the middle when everything has gone pear-shaped, and the even though they've got the explosive devices, the squad members literally say, screw this, I'm gone. Right. And just walk off. I love that idea because there is this. I give the movie credit that despite its problems with writing and characterization, I'll make a comparison, a very unpopular comparison in a minute. It's I did get that sense with the movie that Rick Flag and Amanda Waller were barely able to control these people. I actually did. Sense. I got that. I constantly got this feeling that there was the two sequences, like one bit in the middle of the fighting, when the squad members are kind of just learning what they're facing, and they all turn on Flag, and you can tell they're all kind of starting weighing up the idea of, okay, we're gonna our things will blow up, but how many of us could kill him before that
was
happens?
the problem, because all you have to do is to explain this. Look, you have to keep, the idea that they say, if Flag dies, we die. That wasn't explained well at all, because to me, I don't understand why Deadshot can just shoot the thing out of his hand or something.
Yeah.
Or whatever. It is like, it could have easily incapacitate Flag. Deadshot is this super expert crack shot. Just blow off his elbow, wherever it is, while he's holding this thing in his hand. Easily shoot him in his head when he...
But I think they kind of... I mean, they do show later that... Because he smashes the one at the bar scene, but then we reveal later that Amanda Waller has another one.
Right.
Well,
so it's kind of a fallback, but they don't establish that well enough.
Well enough.
I mean,
because with Enchantress, they established that Enchantress couldn't just go to get the briefcase at all. And I get the feeling that they could have explained Amanda Waller has multiple chips in her body to reference these security things. Because you can't just up and kill her.
Yeah.
So
which would make sense.
Exactly.
Because this is Amanda Waller.
Exactly. So they didn't do that because when they show Enchantress go into Amanda Waller's room.
Right.
And they saw she get close to the briefcase and they see the light turn red immediately. So meaning that it's armed. So she's like, alright, this thing gonna blow up or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then she just goes into the bathroom and collects the other statue. I was like, what?
Okay, and that on Amanda Waller's part, that is a huge misfire. What? I mean, come on.
Another thing. Why does that? There's another again topsy-turvy script because all of the mystery Enchantress stuff should have been at the end of the movie. Why does that Enchantress just didn't take the statue from the start? Wasn't the statue there?
Maybe. I mean, I suppose it maybe only occurred to her then, but I don't know. I
What?
mean,
wait. So she didn't know? It wasn't really clarified to me.
Exactly.
It was just there, but
she brought the statue. They brought it inside. It's like she couldn't do this from the start while she was in the cave when the cave was there. And that's another thing that just kind of annoying me. So you have an archaeologist by herself.
Oh, come on.
In the jungle, whatever.
These are the movies. They always do that.
They always do that.
They always do that stupid thing. Everyone walks in. Oh, what? Well, the mummy. She walks in. Oh, what's this mysterious? What's this mysterious test? Let me read this.
But she's by herself, eh? She have no expedition, no guide, nothing.
Good point.
In the jungle.
Or Evil Dead, where they just walk into the cabin. Oh, what's this mysterious tape?
No, but
there are more than one person there.
An archaeologist as well. The archaeologist. She picks up the statue and then she cracks it immediately. I'm like, what? You don't take care of this thing?
Worst archaeologist
And
ever.
I was like, no, it's...
I mean, if she dropped it by accident, that would make more sense.
No, but world building. How do archaeologists actually go into caves and deal with stuff like that? You know, you have the place lined up and, you know, you put a little...
I mean, if you established her more as maybe this freelance archaeologist...
And what they could have done with it is, again, with the Suicide Squad thing, you have somebody steal the... That's like with the art stuff with Wonder Woman. Where there's an art gallery and some guy take it. You're gonna have a rich, powerful person take the stuff and they take it for other reasons, and then they don't open it yet, so they don't know what's inside this thing. And then June Moon now, who's probably gonna change her character a little bit, but she's not just an innocent archaeologist, but she's a person looking for artifacts, and she knows that this person illegally stole it or stole it from a museum years ago.
Like there's another character who's investing in magical artifacts for weapon purposes or something, and he sends them back.
Whatever. It could have been Lex Luthor for hell.
That would make sense. Like all you have to do is have a little shot of her van or something that says LexCorp on it.
Something.
That's actually a really good point.
Yeah, and it just do us some so she works at LexCorp, even though she's an archaeologist.
Which would explain why she cuts corners, because this is Lex Luthor. Despite being the world's greatest mastermind, he cuts corners constantly.
Right. And that's the thing. The movie just had this topsy-turvy script. It didn't make sense. It didn't work.
And let me just talk about Enchantress' brother for a minute.
Right. Then just
Yeah, just came out of nowhere.
Okay,
what was his name again?
I don't
technically,
remember.
the character is supposed to be Incubus. No,
Incubus.
Incubus is not Enchantress' brother. It's
Really?
another demon character
Okay.
from that same dimension.
Okay.
Enchantress is good. But then you had a character, I think her name is Succubus actually.
Okay.
The Succubus is supposed to be actually evil and she took over June Moon's body over Enchantress.
Oh, so this is the
Now,
comic.
why
this
didn't
is
they
a
do
comic
that?
story arc.
It's a comic story. Yeah, it's based loosely, and I use that word very strongly. It's very loosely based on that comic story arc.
Right.
Where
Okay.
it's Succubus who's being evil, and then she has Incubus as her brother, and the both of them sort of run things and take over.
Okay.
It could have just been Enchantress going bad instead of,
No,
I
no.
have to bring my brother back now.
Again, forget. I would have just dropped the brother shit entirely.
Oh, yeah.
and I would have just have.
No.
I just have the idea that you bring Enchantress
But
into
here's
the
the
world.
thing. I honestly feel that despite having, El Diablo and despite having people like El Diablo and even Killer Croc, who has kind of fantastic elements to him slightly.
I thought he was the
felt
weakest
that-
character.
No, here's the
in
sad.
the Suicide
No,
Squad.
Okay, we're gonna fight
No,
about that
Slipknot
one.
is the weakest one. Well,
Well,
we had to that.
yeah. Because
Okay,
of that.
Here's the problem with Killer Croc.
I love Killer Croc.
Here's the problem.
I'm sorry, I love
No, here's
his
the thing.
dialogue.
No, my problem
That was
personal.
amazing.
My personal problem with Killer
Talking
Croc
about-
was first of all, he's too small. Now, I know that's not a big deal because
It's not to me.
even the DCEU has him as a relative normal body size. For me, Killer Croc had to be kind of big. Now, I didn't expect them to do the Mark Ruffalo Hulk thing with the CG,
Right.
but
I love the practical effect actually.
the
Yeah,
makeup looked
the
great.
makeup was
Makeup
fantastic.
looked great.
Yeah.
Makeup looked good, but they could have cast somebody else because that actor, he was in Thor too, by the way. I forget his name. He's Adebisi from Thing, and he was in Lost.
Yeah, I could never figure out his name.
Long African name, I forget his name. I can't remember.
He's pretty good. He's pretty
Good actor. I loved him since the days of Oz, actually.
And he was actually in an episode of Game of Thrones as well
right.
too. Yeah,
Here's the thing: they could have gotten like the Mountain, somebody physically huge, at least
to play it.
Okay,
to play Croc,
okay.
because he had no lines.
No,
He had
he
two
was
lines.
just growling like.
No,
He had two lines.
no,
He had
Mike-
two-
Killer
he had two lines.
Croc.
He had that. He had Beautiful, and then I want BT.
Yeah, I want beauty.
And then wait
No,
till
every time,
TV.
no,
No, he
literally.
said TV.
No, he said BT. He said BT, and
He said, "I
you
want
saw
BT."
BT. Yeah.
And then he had the line with his "Your guys are tourists." I'm
Yeah,
I'm living.
I'm sorry.
yeah,
okay, here's the thing.
I live in a
Okay,
sewer.
here's the thing. The way they set him up, because I'm a big sucker for kind of the monster stories,
Right.
So the way they set him up with the fact that when you're treated like an animal long enough, you
Right.
become one. I half thought he was going to be this gothic Heathcliff, I am dangerous character, but the fact that he strolls on,
Right.
owning everything, like the bit where they're talking in the bar and the line, which is my favorite moment of
Yeah.
his, where they're saying we're all ugly, and Harley puts we're all ugly inside except him.
Yeah.
He's ugly on the outside, and then he says,
That was a nice moment. Yeah.
"I'm beautiful."
Right. It's a good bit, but
He owns it. I mean,
Right.
he's one of the most. This is what I love about him as Gary.
Right.
He's one of my favorite members of the squad. He is one of the most self-loving monsters
Right.
in any movie. He's like the entire cast of what Monsters vs. Aliens,
Right.
Where they're all comfortable, they're all happy,
In
they're
their- in
all
their space, yeah,
perfectly content, and
Right, and he's not like, oh, woe is me.
Right,
Why
woe
am
is
I
me,
like
I'm
this? Why?
You're
Yeah.
tourists.
Right. No, but the problem is that I find his body size is too small because that part where he pull off his shirt and I was like, this is supposed to be Killer Croc, but he's looking smaller than the damn soldiers.
Yeah.
And then they had another part with him. He was fighting somebody underwater for some reason. I was like, who he was fighting underwater exactly?
Yeah, I remember that. Like,
Croc fighting.
for the first time, the guy saw him go in the water, and I
Right.
think somebody was following him.
So I think
and then lo and behold, as soon as shit hit the fan up, and
with
on
the-
the surface,
with the fire, yeah.
he fighting somebody. I was like, wait, who he fighting?
Yeah,
here? I don't understand.
Didn't follow that at all.
I think it was
Didn't
one
make
of. I think it was Incubus's demons or something.
sense. But
Oh,
but we
like
didn't
it.
see that.
Right. Speaking of Incubus's demons,
Then-
it didn't work for me. You see,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
okay,
I get the Escape from New York vibe where
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to complete this task before this, and okay, you have to stop Enchantress, and she's doing her stuff, right? But then, lo and behold, as soon as they jump into the city, as soon as the helicopter gets shut down,
Yeah.
then it gets into like Resident Evil mode now.
Right.
Okay, having all these like possessed
No,
soldiers
I thought of
moving like
zombies.
zombies. I'm like,
Yeah.
this
I
is
thought of
Resident Evil.
zombies.
This is
And
Resident Evil right
that's
here.
what it is. It's the Eldridgean zombie type thing. Because that's Enchantress character. She's this monster from another dimension stuff.
Right. and even the design of the demons was
Yeah, it
just
was-
really
it was
uninspired and
bland.
just
It was
lame.
bland.
This
Raspberry.
this
Bubbly.
bubbly faced
head.
creatures, like
It didn't work.
really.
It
That's the
is-
best all they could do. One of these.
And it's a
Come on.
shame because it's not like this movie does not have visual flair. That's one of my favorite
Right.
things about this movie. This movie
No.
has a very
They had some brilliant shots in this film.
Yeah.
They had some Alex Ross level shots. They had a shot, the same Alex Ross painted with Joker and Harley. That was in it. Then
Yeah.
when they introduce you to it and you see the two of them dancing, like, hey, they do the Alex Ross thing.
Right.
Awesome. But again, that catering to the lowest common denominator of the comic book fan. That's not good mood.
We're gonna say, I recognize that thing.
Exactly.
Yes.
Say bullshit from
Oh, I
Batman
love
v
this
Superman.
movie though. Could they reference that
Exactly.
book? Yeah.
Yeah, same
And-
bullshit from Batman v
right.
Superman. It's same, all the same problems this movie had.
Yeah, but as we mentioned, Joker. Let me talk about misdirection.
Oh.
Now, let me just start off first, right? And then I'll let you comment. The trailer didn't really give much about who the villain was, at least to me. I didn't know.
Right.
Now Enchantress is the villain, and then
Right.
we have Incubus now. They really sold it on the Joker thing. So I assume this thing about Joker being the main villain or something, or he's involved in something. He's just there basically for like about 10 minutes, and then like at first it's like, okay, we see the relationship between him and
I mean, it makes
and
sense
Harley.
for the flashbacks.
We
Right.
get that. Okay, cool. In the flashbacks, all right, I get that. Even the moment where she jumps into the vat and then he jumps in at that moment where they play that song.
All that's fine.
Yeah, cool. But then when he's brought into real time now, it's like, oh well, my journey is just to save Harley Quinn,
Right.
and that's it.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Which I don't-
So you set it, and here's the problem now, because he's not given enough screen time. You know, there's something deeper to it. It's not just, oh, I want to get back this girl
I want
because
to save my
you know.
girl.
Yeah, it can't just be, okay, I want to just see McGill because it's,
Right.
Script and it's Margot Robbie.
I mean, we
it has to be more than that, but
I mean,
because you're not giving much
no,
screen time
but
with
We,
him.
we kind of implied that the relationship
Yeah.
between the two of them was something interesting. Like when she goes in the vat, and then he starts walking away,
Yeah.
and then it's kind of like he goes, and then
Right.
he turns around and dives in after
Right.
her.
Right.
So it's a little bit like they kind of imply that the relationship is a very
No, it's an incredibly pathological relationship.
Yeah,
We know
yeah.
that.
That's fine.
well,
But,
that's fine.
but my point is,
Right.
it's just the trailers themselves. Like they
Yeah.
don't tell you who the villain is,
And
right?
I have-
And then they kind of keep selling.
and they put him
Joker,
at
Joker,
the
Joker,
first
Joker,
trailer.
Joker.
No, but
The first
I also
trailer.
go back to your point about Nolan kind of poisoning the well. Because
Yeah.
Heath Ledger's Joker was the hype. They had to hype, well, this is the new Joker. And they had to hype that.
Yeah.
Because I honestly feel like that's what happened. I mean, because I have two kind of cynical explanations for why the Joker, A, was built the way he was, and two, why he ended up playing as a bigger role in the movie as he did.
Yeah.
The first one is because, as you said, the Nolan movies are now so
Iconic,
bloody
yeah.
entrenched
Yeah.
in the popular culture.
Yes.
Got mine.
It
Jo-
changed everything.
Especially Heath Ledger's Joker, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, you could kind of cynically read into the fact that a lot of the Suicide Squad, especially the ones they brought in who weren't in the comics or whatever, are Batman villains,
Right.
like Killer Croc replacing King Shark or something like
Right,
that.
yeah.
Deadshot.
And
Well,
Deadshot
Deadshot
was there
fine.
already.
Deadshot
He was
was
there.
always there, yeah.
But the other more slightly cynical explanation is that David Ayer kind of they had this idea for Joker for the flashback sequences. They brought in Jared Leto, who came in to give this method performance. That while he was there, David Ayer was kind of like, well, we got a method actor playing the Joker. It seems a pity to waste him.
Right.
Yeah.
So they start throwing in all this other stuff. And while it does kind of add to the kind of chaotic nature of things where, just how difficult it is to pull off a simple mission like this with
Right.
with everyone trying to escape, people doing this, Joker trying to fly in to get Harley, it does kind of work. On the other hand, it also feels a bit chaotic, and I do agree that the marketing did this movie a huge misservice by making, like, the very first trailer we saw, which also sold me on the movie,
Right.
which was just that really creepy cover of I Started a Joke with all the shots of them in
Yeah.
prison.
Yeah.
Which is in
and-
the soundtrack as well too.
which is great, yeah. And then finally culminating in the I'm just going to hurt you really badly
Right.
shot from the movie. That is very heavily implying he's
Right.
going to be the villain. And I admit that on the marketing people's part, I think that's them playing to the fact that Joker's such a popular character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And here's the thing. I don't mind this Joker performance because I know it's a Suicide Squad story.
Yeah.
Joker's
Yeah.
a side character that is supposed to interfere with the story.
Yeah.
So his arc with Harley was fine.
Right.
Even though there are people complaining that there isn't enough Joker in the movie.
But
Yeah.
No, it help people.
And I don't
no,
blame them for agreeing with
Most people,
for
but
saying that.
the consensus I kind of come is a kind of thesis, antithesis, synthesis thing where it have people who absolutely think Joker shouldn't have been in the movie at all.
Which I don't think.
Yeah.
And then other people is like, and that was my attitude as well.
Right.
It's either you don't half-ass it. Either you do a lot of Joker or you do no Joker. But don't give it half Joker.
Tantalizing. Like,
Exactly.
That's
a
the
bit of a
problem. And then on top of that, the misdirection with the helicopter crashing, like, at what point I supposed to think Joker did? That was-
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, that was stupid. Now I heard that it was supposed to be him actually killing and getting rid of her, and that's why she kind of falls to a thing for Deadshot. Because that's a whole arc too.
Right.
They could have
That
done that.
that would have been
and they could have
interesting,
played up the
actually.
love triangle with that. Didn't do it. Bad edit.
Yeah.
I want to
I
talk
didn't
about
really even get a love triangle, or at least
can I
a
just-
kind of love
okay.
thing between
that's
Deadshot
in the,
and
but that's in the comic.
yeah.
Well, the weird thing between Harley Quinn and Deadshot was that it does come off a little bit like the way I interpret it is it's less of a romantic thing and more of a kind of surrogate father-daughter relationship. Because here's for me. Because Harley Quinn, we established in this movie, is very dependent on the Joker, and she's of that kind of that weird, unfortunate, women thing. No, not general thing. No, sorry. But some women, where they get kind of really dependent.
Right.
So then,
then
Deadshot shows up, and she kind of gravitates with him because he's this kind of strong. I mean, you can kind of see her pitching herself to all the other male members of the Suicide Squad, but it's Deadshot she got to focus on because he returns her affection. Because on his end, he's got this relationship with his daughter, which is the one thing in his life that matters. And so when you have this kind of vulnerable young woman who's kind of coming towards him, needing that sort of attention, he gravitates towards her. So it's kind of a mutual thing. In that perspective, kind of makes sense. But my one problem I have two problems with this movie. Number one.
Only two?
No.
Actually, no. My main problem with this movie, I can sum up all my problems with this movie with the script.
Right.
Yes.
Which is my problem.
We can all agree.
This is a messy movie. Yeah. And as far as on the smaller scale, there are two problems I want to address right now. Firstly, this movie reminded me, in some unfortunate ways, of the first X-Men, where they say X-Men, but really it's the Wolverine movie. Where
Wolverine and Rogue, to an extent.
But even Rogue didn't play as much of a part as
Wolverine.
Exactly.
Basically, Wolverine, Rogue, Magneto, and Professor X.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, the problem is they give him so much screen time, and the other characters are either scaled back or they're. I mean, Storm had nothing to do. Cyclops was only interested because basically, if you are not a character directly involved with Wolverine in the X-Men movie, then you don't get a movie. Yeah. It's a bit like because I watched the Ultimate Avengers animated movie and was comparing it to Avengers, and it's the exact same. And basically, Ultimate Avengers.
I like that movie actually.
Yeah. Oh
I love that part where Hulk took up the hammer.
I'm sorry, but awesome. For me, Ultimate Avengers is what happens if you took Avengers but went the X-Men route with it and made it all about one character, in this case Captain America. Right. And this movie feels a little bit like that.
The sequel was terrible too, but yeah.
Both of them were terrible. But for me, Suicide Squad, way too much time is given to Deadshot and Harley Quinn specifically. They have the most flashbacks. Yeah. They get that early unnecessary introduction scene in the middle. Their file sequences are longer than anyone else's. Yes. They get more flashbacks. They get closure scenes. Yeah.
Oh, as you brought up that, it's kind of funny that is during that bar scene that we mentioned that we got another glimpse of Diablo. I was like,
no, we hinted at him earlier.
I know, but just how they brought it in, like, okay, we just need an emotional moment here. Let's use Diablo.
If that bar scene had been everyone's sequences, like if they had cut down on the number of Harley Quinn and Deadshot flashbacks and cut out that unnecessary opening thing before Amanda Waller's scene, then the characterization would have been a little and added file scenes for Katana and Slipknot, and they could have done it for Katana because they gave Rick Flag a file, for crying out loud. Right. So if they had done that, then the movie would have felt much more even. But for me, where this movie succeeds, because I don't like X-Men at all, but where this movie beats X-Men,
no X-Men movies at all, not even Days of Future Past.
I like First Class.
I liked First Class. I actually
First Class.
Oh no, I hate First Class.
Oh really? First Class is my favorite.
Has anyone else noticed that in First Class, every single female character is in their underwear at least once?
Well, yeah.
Or naked. Yes. At least once. Come on, people. Yeah, come on.
Jennifer Lawrence.
And we all wonder why it took so long to get a Wonder Woman movie made. Right. But
anyway.
But for me, where this movie, in my opinion, beats X-Men hands down, is that the world is more interesting to me. The world is more interesting, because I have heard people talking about the MCU, saying that the Netflix MCU is the street level stuff, while all the other stuff is the cosmic stuff. And for me, this movie started out like it was the street level movie. Right. Like I thought their villain they were going to handle was going to be some. Simple. This is where the Joker would have made sense. Like if the Joker was trying to steal something important, or he had some, or even because they mentioned that other countries were looking into metahumans, have a metahuman terrorist, or someone like that running around like a gunman or something who can teleport, and then they call him the Squad because they need someone to deal with it. I felt this is a very street level movie. I mean, that's actually one of the things, because this is
it would have brought to the whole grittiness that we know David Ayer movies to be.
Yep. And it works so, and actually it would have worked so well with this aesthetic, because that's one of the things I love about this movie. This movie is an example of a little fantasy subgenre I like to call, which I don't call it. It's its official name, urban fantasy. Right. Which is fantasy that takes place largely in an urban setting, but not just as in like something like Harry Potter, where they visit the human world.
Right.
I mean specifically fantasy that takes place in a city, and the city itself is as much of a character as the fantasy world, and the two are ingratiated. Like good examples are The Wolfen, that obscure movie that practically no one's ever seen, which is about kind of
I know about Wolfen.
Wolfen, awesome movie. Sort of
Albert Finney. I know them.
Oh yeah, great movie. Kind of goes into the idea of urbanized fairy creatures, which is an awesome concept.
Yeah. Oh, I like the idea with the wolves, like they have these day jobs as like these construction workers, and they just roam about the streets. That was cool.
I love the idea because it's like what happens to bears. Like you have bears in the wild, but then bears that come to the city, they start feeding on garbage. The idea of that with a mythological creature is fascinating.
Right.
And then also another movie that does this is of course the one that everyone will know, The Crow.
Right.
Yes.
Which is a movie that it's this gothic urban.
Oh my god!
Movie with all these
show
fantasy
drips in gothic.
It
By the way,
so
Jason Momoa is being cast
that's not happening.
Crow. I'm like,
that's not happening. I'm in denial. There is no
No,
there is no Crow remake. There is no Crow remake.
He has a dumb reason. He has a simple reason why that won't work, because Jason Momoa is very muscular. Right?
Exactly.
Isn't he supposed to be like skinny?
The Crow is okay. Here's the thing. The Crow is when I saw The Crow, I loved it. One of Alex's this and Dark City are actually tied for Alex Proyas's best movies.
Yes.
I need to see Gods of Egypt, but
I want to. If you're looking for a so bad it's good time, watch Gods of Egypt.
I mean, but for me, I watched The Crow and I was looking at and I watched The Crow and I thought, this isn't something that would make for terrible sequels. I mean, the idea of The Crow having to help other souls with their unfinished business before going on, that is a good idea.
I think they tried that with the TV series.
Here's the thing, though. I then watched all 3 sequels and thought, no, this is not going to work. Right. This is not. The sequels killed any. I mean,
I thought the second one was horrible, though.
Oh God.
What was
City of Angels.
City of Angels, yeah.
That was horrible.
City of Angels is one of my least favorite movies. No. Well, in my opinion, disagree with me on this. That's what comment sections are for. The Crow, City of Angels is one of the worst films ever made.
Yeah.
It is.
Iggy Pop was in it, I think.
It is a disaster on every level. I mean, after that, the sequels only go up. I mean, the second one's kind of sort of a culty B movie meets kind of Wes Craven presents 90s horror fun.
But that's more direct to DVD kind of thing.
Exactly. And then the fourth one is just garbage. Waste of Danny Trejo and Angel from Buffy of all people. I mean,
really?
It's the best.
David Boreanaz.
Yeah. And then there was a series, Stairway to Heaven. I actually remember that show.
I didn't watch.
I don't remember a single thing about it.
But anyway, scaling back, this is an example of, and I love urban fantasy because I love the idea of taking because I love fantasy in all its spectrums.
Right.
So I love the idea of fantasy, of urbanized fantasy, of fantasy that's had to adjust to our world. Like, for example, I love the idea that El Diablo, for example, is this guy born with these fire powers, which we learn
I like the fact he's a gangbanger.
He's this gangster.
I love that.
And everyone wears the hoodies, and I loved the urban fantasy elements to this movie, and that's actually for me what saves it, because I like this movie. I like this a lot. I would give this an A- or B+ for me.
Wow.
For me, I know I'm being generous, and I know both of you have your problems.
B- on cinema score.
But for me, this is. But that is but for me, and the reason, so I love an urban fantasy movie, and that's why I think this movie works. So one of the 2 points I think this movie works over X-Men, which got the same problem of uneven characterization. And the thing is, the way it succeeds over X-Men for me is that all the other characters are more interesting. Because let me put it this way. We are all disappointed that Slipknot didn't get more to do.
Yeah.
And had a beat. But here's the thing. In X-Men, we have tons of characters like that, but I don't remember watching X-Men thinking, I wish that guy got more screen time.
Right.
But Slipknot, as a combination of Adam Beach's performance and the design of the character, it's a little bit like that Walter Hill. I think about Walter Hill and Guillermo del Toro love to do. Right. Or what Walter Hill said he said, I increasingly like to just introduce characters without backstory. What I do is I introduce a character, and then through their actions and their appearances, which is more of a del Toro thing, del Toro will tell the entire character's backstory in just their costumes and designs and stuff, which in Pacific Rim and Crimson Peak.
Pacific Rim, like when this guy who played Hellboy.
Ron Perlman.
Yeah, Ron Perlman. When his character comes into Pacific Rim. You don't get any backstory, but it's like, wait, you want to know more about him, and then when you hear him talking, you see his costume,
and
it says a lot.
In that regard, for me, Suicide Squad works. Every member of the squad, even the ones we don't get files on, like Slipknot, for me, there is something about him that is interesting. And for me, it's a combination of, as I said, costumes, and the fact that David Ayer apparently had, even though Jared Leto is the one that everyone it gives credit for going method. David Ayer kind of had everyone go method for this movie.
Yeah.
He had the cast, punch each
Margot
other.
Robbie, anyone?
He had the cast punch each other to sites. Everyone got tattoos. He had Will Smith reading books on notorious serial killers, trying to get into that mindset. Killer Croc's actor, he was given, because Killer Croc is a cannibal. There's this one interview by this one, I think, a notorious cannibal, which he apparently would watch every day before shooting to get into the thing.
I think Viola Davis read a book on sociopaths to get that sort of character down.
So, and in that regard, even when the characters don't do much, we're disappointed because we look at, for me anyway, I'm not speaking for everyone here, I know there are some of you who agree with me, I know that, but give me some love in the comments. But for me, the characters themselves are interesting enough that I want to know more, and for me, most of them. This is why I feel that the opening scenes with Harley Quinn and Deadshot kind of messed them up, because with a lot of the other characters, we learned a lot about them from their actions. Like we were told about Killer Croc, but then as we get to know more about Killer Croc, and we get to see his attitude, I get basically there's an acceptance to it that really endears me to the character. And even though El Diablo, we go into his tragic backstory a lot, there is a lot about him that we do kind of learn. I mean, if we there's stuff about him that we kind of learn as we're going with him, and Captain Boomerang in particular. I mean, if you hadn't mentioned the and can I just say, by the way, on a little side note, this is Jai Courtney's best performance ever.
Yes,
ever.
Yeah, I'll forgive him for Live Free or Die Hard. Yeah.
Live Free, Die Hard, Terminator Genesis, Divergent.
Jai Courtney.
The man, Jai Courtney Jai Courtney had a horrible agent, but then a new agent came, shot the old agent, and made himself his agent, got him on Suicide Squad.
I would love to believe that.
And I really hope he does get better, because I watched him in Live Free or Die Hard, and I thought, this guy is bland.
Yeah, he's
this is
can't
white.
be John McClane's son.
Yeah.
No.
And then he shows up in Captain Boomerang in his first scene where they introduce him, where they bring him in the sack, and they tear him out, and first thing he wants to do is start beating up people, and there's that unicorn he keeps in his jacket the whole
he has a
time.
fetish for pink unicorns. Why? I don't know. It's funny.
Because it's weird.
Okay, I also heard that he had a lot of scenes where the character was supposed to be like kind of explicitly racist and sexist. So whenever he was hitting on Katana.
A little bit, yeah.
Right, so he's supposed to be that, but he's supposed to have extra scenes as well. So
okay.
What I find weird about the fact that, because the movie where apparently there's a lot of stuff that ends up on the cutting room floor, but Ayer swears up and down this is his version of the movie. Wow. There's no director's cut. There is no the David Ayer version.
I want to see
apparently the deleted scenes will be on the DVD, but he has. And Jared Leto in particular says that a lot of Joker stuff ended up on the cutting room floor.
Right.
Yeah.
But David Ayer insists this is his version of the movie, and there are a lot of things about this movie I thought were really particularly, and there's a lot of ways this concept worked.
Right.
Like it does, there are times where it does have a very Escape from New York vibe, and I like that.
Yeah.
And I love the scene, for example, when they decide, okay, we're going to use the squad, and they're calling everyone in, and they have to round everyone up, and then Will Smith's character, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then Margot Robbie's character, and then Harley Quinn, throws up that pen and starts stabbing. They wash El Diablo out of his tank, and then they have to go and get Killer Croc, who wants to start trying to eat people and stuff.
Yeah, that was good. That was a cool sequence.
The rounding everyone up scene in general, basically starting from that all the way up until Slipknot shows up, and even the bit when they're all suiting up. I love that entire sequence.
Right.
Basically, from they say, okay, we're using the squad all the way up until they arrive in New York gold for me.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the design of the movie, and I think the performances, characters, there's bits of. Again, that's what I think is disappointing, because this movie feels like it's got so much going for it, but it's not quite confident in itself. Like, for example, as I've said, this is a very urban, very street level movie. Obviously, you got a lot of rappers on the soundtrack. I'm just gonna say I'm not a rock. I am not a rap fan at all, but I found myself "Sucker for Pain" is such a very odd song. I found myself loving it. I love
that song sticks in your head.
I mean, I listened to it the first time. Do I like this? Because I actually started for X Ambassadors and Imagine Dragons, because I kind of like Imagine Dragons. I like X Ambassadors, and then I listened to the whole track with everyone else, and even the iguana. Well, what's that guy's name? Lil Wayne.
You call him an iguana?
Yes. He looks like it. Yeah. But
oh my gosh.
Who I don't like at all.
Right.
But even him, I liked his verse. I liked the bits. I love the style. That song works.
Right.
So this is very street.
If I could just stop it for a minute. I am a huge rap fan. I actually like this song, Sucker for Pain. Actually, got into, it kind of embedded itself into my subconscious. I actually like it. although my main criticism is that there's too much artists on it.
Right.
I'm glad that Logic, underrated rapper by the way, he's been doing a lot of great albums.
Yeah.
Glad to see that he is on this commercial track basically. But, you know, Lil Wayne does what Lil Wayne does and he's good. But do we need Wiz Khalifa doing his Wiz Khalifa-isms? And we're going through the pain, finding through the rain. And I gotta sing like this. And then I'm gonna do a little rap like this, like what I did in Furious 7 when I sung that song about We'll See You Again, that kind of shit. You know, there was just a lot of artists in a 5-minute track. It didn't need to be like that, but love the beat, love the chorus, that chorus. Wow, that hook, my goodness. Anyway, yeah.
But yeah, I love, so what I feel with this movie was that this movie spends a lot of time pretty much setting up its aesthetic as a street level superhero crime fantasy movie. And as a fan of fantasy, I love weird fantasy movies.
Me
so
too.
This appeals to me a lot. But that being said, I felt like they kind of chickened at the last minute. Like the villain should not have been something this big, something this cosmic, something of this scale. I mean, because obviously the villain is Enchantress and her brother were demons from another dimension, and they're gonna bring in their army of their own demons, and this is too big a scale of a mission. I mean, even the big teams like Avengers, their first mission, Loki. I mean, who's sure he's not a small time villain, but he's
on their level.
He's not more on their level. And then the second villain is Ultron, who's got this massive plot involving involving asteroids and an army of his own robots and stuff. And then the next time we have them, they're fighting each other. There's a progression.
Exactly.
Suicide Squad, they should have started like for example, like another guy like El Diablo, for example. Like if they'd started off with another criminal who finds himself in possession of powers or something like that. And have Enchantress, what I think is that for a movie like this, Enchantress should have been one of the team for this movie. For this movie, Enchantress should have been a member of the team. And then for the next film, we then do all this stuff of her brother turning traitor and trying to escape and stuff like.
Right.
But for this movie, she's a member of the team, and we kind of draw her into that dynamic.
For me, it was just power dynamics. I just find she was the only thing that was like by and large the strongest thing on this team. So I don't understand.
Yeah. She's the powerhouse. I mean, and every team.
Yeah, but it's absurd how strong she is.
But anyone who has ever MMO'd would know that when you go into any situation, you want to have a power balance. You want one healer, one gunman, one swordsman, one and a backup, and one powerhouse. I mean, I've played Old Republic. We whenever you form a group of something like 4 for the really big missions, we always try and kind of hold out for the one guy who's at level, because we're all maybe something like level 29, and wait for the one guy who's at level 76, who's just kind of replaying some of his favorite levels, to come back and kind of help out. In that regard, I don't mind them having the powerhouse character.
That didn't really make sense.
But for me, as I said, I felt that you should. I mean, having her turn on them is a bit too.
It is so
and it's
early.
just how they did it.
It's too
it
early.
Just didn't work
I
for
mean,
me. Yeah.
I mean, I get that they're all trying to escape, and I love the fact. I mean, that's how we lose Slipknot. That's how Harley Quinn has that brief escape moment. The idea that they are constantly trying to escape, constantly trying to kill Amanda Waller, and sometimes even each other, that all makes sense. But the villain was too big a scale for a movie like this.
Agreed.
We should have had something smaller, like something to help kind of build the idea of the criminal element of the DC universe. Like there are mobsters that Batman. I mean, because a lot of these people have Batman connections, and there is a Batman connection to this movie, but I didn't mind it because I don't. You've heard this. I don't like Batman that much, but I mean, I think my favorite movies, and I haven't seen the Nolan movies, but I think my favorite may be the 1989 one, only because it's got that gothic noir thing going, which I love.
Yeah,
But
although you will love Batman Returns. I think we argued about this before. You didn't like Batman Returns.
which one? Oh no, God no! If here's the thing, we're
Catwoman, awesome, classic. I love that show.
The Penguin stuff.
One of the best anti-Christmas movies ever made.
Okay, it started out that way. Okay, if you got rid of the Penguin stuff, you'd have an amazing movie. I mean, I don't mind the stuff, I don't mind the Catwoman stuff, but the Penguin stuff all is just it's grotesque.
Beautifully weird. It's beautifully
no, it's
weird.
not beautifully anything. Look, Burton can pull off beautifully weird and strange and surreal. Sleepy Hollow, Sweeney Todd.
Right.
But Batman Returns, it wasn't weird, it was grotesque. The Penguin stuff was all grotesque. Everything out of his mouth was every time he was doing something repellent, He was always doing something repellent, and there's never that sense of his backs. Not just that, but even biting the guy's nose off, making the sexual jokes with Catwoman, where he's holding the different lubricants, and it's just it doesn't fit. I mean, if we'd start off on something like this level, like a mobster with a twist to him, like he's got maybe if we're gonna try this motif.
Gotham does.
Yeah, Gotham did that.
Something like that. Yeah, mobsters
he's
with a weird.
He's of a mobster, and then he becomes a mobster.
Or even if you want to go something like if you want to go something that's more stereotypical, do that thing that the people were doing in action movies in the '90s for a bit. We could maybe bring in a kind of these Haitian mobs with all that voodoo stuff going on. I mean, that would kind of tie into the El Diablo thing a little bit.
Right.
Especially since I love small note, I love how El Diablo's power is an Aztec thing. I love the hell out of that because I love Aztec mythology, but also it is such an urban fantasy idea. The idea that you've got that basically.
I love the design of when he goes.
It's this skeleton with the feather headdress and all that.
They gave him no backstory because Diablo is essentially a magic character. So it's how it starts off. It looks like he's just a meta-human mutant.
But it turns out he's got the magic powers. I don't know. He's
magic,
which I like, and I love the idea that here's this guy who's been given these ancient Aztec fire abilities, and he uses them to to take over his gang area. That is hilarious, and I love that. I love that concept.
Yeah, that's
right. So you could just kind of if you have anything else to say about the movie, you could just kind of repeat your rating. I want Ricardo to say his thoughts and then Reeton, and then I will say my thoughts and Reeton.
Okay, so in summary, I feel that despite all the problems can come back to the script. I mean, it has maybe some slight editing problems. There are some kind of confusing shots going on, but I feel that the villain's power level was too big for a team they were pitching too early. The script had kind of these Wolverine moments where they spent too much time on some characters, and I find it kind of suspicious that both the ones they focused on are Batman related with very prominent Batman backstories. Batman rears his ugly head in in DC again. So,
yes.
But
for real.
But
although I didn't mind it though, but
in this movie it made sense.
Two times it's like, at least they did it twice.
It made a little bit more sense because you had his backstory was Deadshot, then his backstory was Harley Quinn, and then it felt like they were kind of going in more of a setup of Justice League direction. How Captain Boomerang was the one caught by the Flash in a decent scene.
We're supposed to mention the whole Flash thing.
Well, okay, so Captain Boomerang is a Flash villain, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
okay.
And apparently Adam Beach has kind of said that. I don't think this is official, but when David Ayer was asking him what were you doing, basically to get him in character, what were you doing when you were caught? He said strangling Wonder Woman, and David Ayer loved that idea. Okay. So they put sort of a Wonder Woman connection with Slipknot, and sort of implication that he's kind of a rapist with a kind of a strength thing going on, hence the ropes and stuff. But all that was cut. But
hence the name Slipknot.
Exactly.
Okay.
But so I think it is a fascinating world with great setup, very visual characters, a splendid cast, all giving really not when I say over the top, I mean that in a good way, because I don't mean something like Hudson Hawk, Hudson Hawk, where everyone
actually mentioned that movie.
I've seen that movie, where everyone is
saw that movie.
Yeah, everyone is chewing the scenery, regurgitating it, and eating it again. But everyone's kind of over the top, but in the best way possible, because they're playing larger than life characters. They should love larger than life performances. But I just feel that there are times when the movie feels like it's not quite confident in itself. And there are times where it feels like the script's a bit messy. And all the problems come back to the fact that I don't think it has real confidence. However, now that they've established this is profitable, this is a movie where I'm actually really excited if they do a sequel. Because if they do a sequel, I mean, we've lost several members of the squad. I'm not going to say who, because I still want people. I want everyone. You should all go see this. But this is a movie where I could see them bringing in other members. I kind of, for a sequel, I think that they should do is they should resurrect Green Arrow Supermax. Did you ever hear that? That was an abandoned script idea that I think David S. Goyer came up with, where Green Arrow,
your friend,
where Green Arrow gets accused of a crime he didn't commit.
Right,
and locked up in a super prison for supervillains.
Right.
So while Batman and the other DC people are struggling to try and get him out, he is trying to survive in this prison.
Right.
Now, I feel if you did that for a Suicide Squad sequel and did something like let's say someone like Red Hood,
Right.
one of those heroes who's kind of a bit on the razor's edge, so to speak.
Red Hood is a villain.
But exactly, you get a quote unquote hero who is that gray, sort of dark gray,
Right.
and then you throw him in a Suicide Squad environment where he's treated like all the other members of the team, and then they send him out on missions and stuff. That would be interesting.
That's a good idea. Did it because they kind of did that with Punisher this season and the other season.
This is a concept. So yeah, I love the world, love the performances. I love concept. Genius. This. There are problems, I admit that. But for me, what it does right, it doesn't just do right, it does actually pretty original. Because there's a lot of things in this that I didn't see in other superhero movies or didn't see in other movies. I mean, not period. I mean, because this concept is, Escape from New York or The Dirty Dozen or The Inglourious Bastards, either one of them. But as far as the execution goes and bringing the urban fantasy elements and superhero elements, it is one of... I don't think I've ever seen this for a superhero movie. Like, for example, if you look at The Shadow, that's a superhero movie. It's got that pulp edge that very few other superhero movies quite have. I mean, Rocketeer comes closest. Yeah. Phantom is almost there. It just has. I like Phantom, but it's got some problems. But
I actually saw that on big screen.
I actually envy you for that.
I'll admit that.
Phantom is some beautiful cinematography, but the Wes Craven Swamp Thing, another movie I absolutely adore, is the superhero thing, but it's got that B movie feel to it, which makes it unique. In this case, Suicide Squad has enough things going for it unique that I honestly feel it'll be a superhero movie that may outlive its cinematic universe connections slightly.
Okay.
I honestly feel aesthetically it is a very distinct movie, and I love it, and I want to see a sequel. I don't know if they have any immediate plans for it yet, but I would love to see a sequel. It is a movie I like. I would put this on my favorite I would probably put this on my list of non-MCU superhero movies.
Right.
I would, and that's mainly because I just to explain to those of you who've just gasped, I don't like any of the X-Men movies except Days of Future Past, and any of the Richard Donner Superman movies. 2 comes close. I went into the.
You don't even like 1?
Yeah, 1 is a classic.
One is a classic.
I mean,
it looks cool, but it's got
ridiculously long, and it takes a good while to get to its point. But it's a great movie.
It's slow.
No, for me, to only have one part of one that don't work at all, and that is with Lois Lane talking when she was flying.
Oh yeah, that monologue shit.
One is a historically important movie for the genre.
Exactly.
But beyond that, it's got some. It's got a little bit of a lack of.
It's cheesy. That's what you're trying to say.
No. I love cheesy to a degree, but my problem with this movie is that even though it looks fantastic and it's historically important for getting superheroes to the place where they are now, it's got some problems as far as concept and
pacing.
Execution. Pacing is a huge one.
That's what I mean.
Fly around the world.
But
I love that. That's best scene.
No.
That was brilliant.
And I have to admit, I was actually. 2 is a movie I'm mixed about. When I first saw 2, I liked 2. I don't like Lex Luthor in 2.
Yeah.
We didn't need Lex Luthor in 2 at all. He's completely useless.
I like Zod. Zod was badass.
And Zod was. He was. Terrence Stamp is amazing.
Yeah.
Terrence Stamp is just a treasure. Have you ever seen The Limey?
Yeah.
The Limey. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
Terrence Stamp is a national gift to humanity. But
Fantastic.
but 2 comes closest to being, and I think it's on my list of non-MCU superhero movies. It's somewhere near the sort of the bottom,
right.
But only because, and it's only held back by the Lex Luthor stuff,
right.
Because the Lex Luthor stuff drags the movie down. And I went into the director's cut, the Richard Donner cut, thinking it was going to be a better movie, but
not really.
It is amazing how little of an improvement it is. I mean, aside from more continuity with all the Brando stuff still being in there, and maybe a little bit more serious in places, because I hated the weird. Because this is why I like the modern superhero era, because we have stopped having to apologize for superhero movies.
Right.
Like, I mean, Batman.
We could be silly now.
We can do whatever we want. We don't have to try and explain ourselves. We don't have to be. This is why of the worst superhero movies for me are the ones that feel like they have to apologize or explain. Like Ang Lee's Hulk is a big one for me. I can't stand that one. And part of the thing is it is a deliberately boring movie that apologizes for its nature constantly. I am not a big fan of M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable because of for similar reasons. I
think that's his last great movie. The reason I don't,
and while I like Schumacher as a filmmaker, I don't like the Schumacher Batman films, mainly because
Forever was dumb. It was fun.
mainly because I mean they're fun.
It's 90s fun.
4 is hilariously bad, but they are still movies that have basically it's that annoying phase of any given trend where whether it's spaghetti westerns or in film noir where they get to a certain point and everyone starts making self-parodies.
Right.
And unfortunately for me, even though my favorite superhero craze of all of them is the late 80s to 90s, it fell on self-parody too quickly for me because we had having too many movies that had to have their tongues firmly in their cheek in order to get made, and look at this goofy. I hate that stuff. So I mean, and this one thing is all about Suicide Squad. It is not an apologetic movie at all, which I respect it for. So I'll put this my favorite one of my favorite non-MCU favorite superhero movies. I think there's a couple MCU movies that's probably a little bit better than a few, but for the most part, it's one of my favorite. I give this B+ to A-. I mean, the good stuff good stuff is really good. The bad stuff I can forgive because of the good stuff. Okay, you guys.
Ricardo, 5 cents to it, rating, and then I'll.
Right. From an objective standpoint, this is about as bad or probably worse than Batman v Superman. But I did not. It had all the same problems that movie had, but it was nowhere near as egregious. And I think it's because I just went in with a low standard. That's it, as low as I can. This was a mess. The script was a mess. As Claude said, editing was editing was rough.
All over the place.
Yeah, that's horrible. And I had fun with it because it had a music video vibe almost. That's how I treated it. It felt like a music video, like an extended music video, which was fun. Story was again a lot of dumb story beats. The biggest disappointment I say for me at this is that it was the action was really dryly and poorly shot and badly shot in my opinion. That is kind of again crappy.
Which you wouldn't think from David Ayer.
That's the thing. But my thing is that it felt like a mid 2000s Bryan Singer type film. I
thought you was gonna say like a Resident Evil movie.
No, I say no. It's a mid 2000s. It's a mid 2000s mediocrity of mid 2000s or Bryan Singer film. But I repeat myself. This didn't work at all. It's I say pretty bad. It deserves its scores that you seen on the internet. Sorry. Right
now it's like 23%. I think is on Rotten Tomatoes.
And that's my attitude. Here's the thing. I didn't hate it. I wasn't angry at it. I didn't have the energy to. You see, like how with Batman v Superman, it was just pure bile and indignation and anger.
Yeah. To the point that every single podcast we've done, you always keep mentioning that movie.
This was. I had fun with this, and I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. It was silly. It worked. It had a massive amount of inconsistencies again with the script, but I didn't have a problem with this. But I still have to give it a pretty bad score. I expect it. So this gets a very low CC8.
Ooh.
Yeah, very low CC8. Not the Globe Order Spain like Batman v Superman, but it was still pretty bad. It didn't work. I had fun with it. I like it, but it's just too much of a mess, a jumbled mess for it to work. So I had to give it that.
All right. My 5 cents on this. No. Y'all were talking great stuff, man. That's cool. I encourage it. So I agree with both you guys. Honestly, at this stage, I mean, we could talk about Batman v Superman being so much better, but I just really went in with Suicide Squad thinking, Rotten Tomatoes score aside, this had so much potential to be better than what it was. And yes, you're seeing all these actors, and they do put in great performances. From Viola Davis to Will Smith to Jack Courtney. Margot Robbie. The acting was on point. You could tell that everybody knew they had to do, but just the execution of it all was horrible. It just really dropped the ball in terms of execution. And you would think that I don't know, maybe it's because of the length of the amount of time it took to make this film, while BVS was going on. Right. You would think that maybe they would have kind of fixed things up now, Right. But I guess maybe because they kind of shot both of them around the same time, I could argue maybe that's why Suicide Squad came out the way it did. Right. And maybe that's why they had to run and do these reshoots to kind of make it lighter,
Which is a myth.
Yeah, which is a myth.
You can't do that. Yeah. Not only, David Ayer has denied that, but beyond that, technically speaking, people, you cannot reshoot things to add humor. The movie is choppy at times, but
exactly,
it is not. The jokes and stuff are not things you can just add.
And it's a truly bad sign. You ever notice this when it had a lot of stuff in the trailer that was not in the movie. Yeah, like the bar scene. They had a part with drinks and whatever.
Yes.
So
Oh,
with
yes.
the
Yes,
water.
yes,
The guy asked for water. You see that in the trailer? Not in the movie.
Not in the movie.
Yeah,
Not in the
why?
movie.
Yeah.
That's a bad
That's a
sign.
good bit. That was a good
That's
bit.
a bad,
but-
that means it's a sign of improv. They're doing improv. That's what you notice. They could remember the movie with this crappy movie Mike and Dave need dates.
Yeah,
Same
we
bullshit.
remember. You mentioned that last time.
Yeah, same really bad practice. So
Yeah. But the thing is with me, like I agree with what Claude was saying. You know, where he cited that term urban fantasy, right? And you know, for what they were setting up with this whole grittiness and you know that style with these rough and rugged characters being called by, I don't want to say an equally rough and rugged character by Amanda Walker, but she was a badass.
yeah, she's like the badass
Yeah.
out of all of them.
And this one moment that caught me completely off guard is when she shot all of I was like,
Oh man, yeah.
what?
No, that character too dark again. That is too dark.
Why
for
would
good.
you do that?
the
And
entire
the
theater-
whole point is what? To prove they are badass? You
No,
can't
no,
shoot
it was it.
all
I
the
I mean,
people
she
that work with you
claimed
to
they're,
prove
they're not qualified for this information.
Exactly. That basically it was they just expended. And they
Yeah,
were,
but
she
come
didn't want them to
on,
talk.
that was
The theater I was at all gasped at that point. And can I just say,
That was a little too dark for the characters.
Yeah, it
weird
didn't
point.
work, man.
My theater had a lot of families.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, a lot of,
Right.
and I don't know. There's not
Because even though
This is a
we have
PG-13
PG-13s and
but-
we state why they rated that way.
Yes.
Oh, it's a
it's a
comic book
comic
movie,
book
so bring the
movie.
kids, man.
I mean,
and Joker's in it,
I mean,
right?
on the
So-
one hand, I do kind of, I think it's kind of cool. There's a whole generation of kids who've now grown up watching the MCU. I do think that there are times where you do need to look at that label because there are stuff in this movie I would not say
Yeah, no.
is for general consumption. I mean, mommy, what's a fetish?
Yeah. Yeah, they
New
had a lot of
stuff
stuff
with
outside-
Joker and stuff
Harley
like
Quinn.
this.
Oh God,
yeah.
that stuff was disturbing.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Debbie Harry, again, her Debbie Harry outfit. Just tight.
Oh my
everything
gosh.
tight. I was like, yeah, look, you're looking good, but come on, this is a little too much.
Yeah, we got kids in the audience, right? But yeah, the way how they were setting things up, like you know, it's this grimy bunch, you know, it's the new Dirty Dozen, but but in a superhero universe. Okay, I get that. And once again, misdirection, setting up Joker being this main, I won't say main, but this central character, if you will, not even an integral character, but a central character. What I would have done if I had the rights to this film, I would have made him the villain instead of
Would've made
taking
sense.
someone who they kind of market as being part of the group, and then suddenly just kind of pulling the chair from under us and saying, "Oh, she's the villain now,"
Yeah.
because script. That's why.
Yeah.
And then making us so superpowered, and then on top of all that, you're bringing in this subplot with her brother that didn't work for me at all.
No.
If you wanted to be Enchantress, let be Enchantress. Okay.
Right.
But you want to bring in Incubus now and
Yeah.
make it even bigger and grander. And well, this is where you can at least see the biggest flaw in this movie. And I think this is just ironic now because this is like the state of Hollywood blockbusters, summer blockbusters nowadays. Everything now needs to be so big budget, so over the top, so flashy, a lot of special effects and stuff. And for a show like Suicide Squad, it didn't need to be. You had a big cast as is. Let the cast sell the
And
film.
the worst part is that the stuff that looked expensive looked good, and then the stuff that looked cheap looked damn cheap. Like there was
Especially
some,
special effects.
I like the
But
fire,
some of the
fire
special
effects,
effects.
for example. The fire effects. I like El Diablo's fire
No,
effects.
no,
Those
no.
were
That's
good.
fine,
I'm talking
that's
about-
fine.
Okay, visual effects
Right.
look fine. Costume and makeup look fine.
Yeah.
Design horrible.
Yeah.
Set design was terrible. So like this city and it looking like a set. Right? In the city, it looking like a set. At no point I buy that this was in a city. Right? And little
Well,
simple
except for the
things-
subway scenes.
little
That's
simple things
clearly-
like again to see little random people still running away, little stuff like that. It's like okay, they say they evacuate the city, but like
But
no.
where were the people? They didn't see anything.
But no, I get that they explain away that it was again lip service. No? So they say okay, they evacuate whoever they could evacuate, and then whoever else got converted by Enchantress,
Right.
and or would have
Lame.
gotten killed.
Yeah.
But it still looked like an empty city set. It looked like oh well, it mash up and it just didn't work.
Right.
Whatever.
Okay. Yeah, this over reliance on like CG and stuff, and I think that's why I would argue this is why they had to take Enchantress and make her the villain because she's the one character with
one
all
part-
these amazing powers.
The
You
one
know?
part that was funny is when she was doing her belly dance thing. I was like,
Yeah, that was. I
funny.
was like,
That was
what
so
this
silly.
bitch doing? She didn't do this kind of weird hula hoop kind of belly dance. She's like,
to be fair,
why?
I've seen a lot of people complain about her that and her outfit online. And to be
Yeah.
fair,
It looks
have
good.
you seen some of those, those pagan priestesses and stuff?
No,
some of them were naked.
You know,
for
it looks.
crying
I'm not denying that
out
part, but the belly dancing. Here's the thing.
Yeah, and no,
when you're
and
doing
it
the
just
weird
and it just made,
ritualistic
If
dances
you're doing the
and
witch
stuff,
stuff and you had to make the witch stuff look cool, only hand movements. That's it. You don't need to do the belly dance stuff.
I don't know. I mean, I
really
found...
silly.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and then it made the
Scarlet
actress.
Witch, how Scarlet Witch does her powers, it looks cool.
Yeah, and then it made the actress. Who,
thing, and then-
yeah, then it made the actress who played her. I forgot her name.
Yeah.
It just made a it made a character we
Kara,
laugh.
Kara something. She's also in this new Valerian and City of a Thousand Planets movie that's coming up.
Okay.
From Luc Besson.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It makes a
Listen,
character
when they
look
just say
way
Luc Besson,
laughable. That's right. The point is, it makes a character way more laughable. Like I
Yeah,
was watching,
she was
like
still silly.
I can't take her character seriously at all, and you make her the villain.
Which is a
They just forget
shame.
Incubus, because Incubus didn't mean shit to me.
No.
But this the whole gyration and all that stuff, it just make it like
Yeah.
really. It just making him. It makes it campy, but campy in a bad way.
Yeah.
You know.
Incubus didn't feel there.
Yeah.
He didn't
No,
feel
no.
present
Yeah.
physically.
And-
I mean, the reason they said they did the Killer Croc effects practical was they wanted to actually
Right.
give that actor, they wanted him to actually be on set, interacting with
Right.
everyone, actually give them that sense, and that worked. But then Incubus, they took the complete opposite approach, and it failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incubus felt like a balloon.
And is
This
it
kind
just
of-
me, or did his character design remind me a lot like the remember in Thor, that
robot?
unnecessary robot?
Yeah,
See, it looked
basically,
just like him. It looked just
yeah.
like him.
It did.
Oh, because
Mind
we
you,
need
the
a
fight-
robot
Yeah.
Mind you-
to walk through this
Which
town.
is-
Because we're in the 50s now.
And again,
That's why it's.
And again, I'm always particularly harsh about this movie when it comes to the visual stuff, because this movie shows it is visually competent and it's
Right.
really cool when it comes to
Yes.
visuals. So having a villain that generic looking is unexcusable.
Yeah.
I mean, and Enchantress is also particularly embarrassing because a lot of her stuff, the cool thing about her is she's got this very ancient, very
Right.
scary tribal look. I mean, some of her favorite
But
scenes are
that's
the bits when she's all shadowy and she's just
Right.
kind of moving, kind of
Right.
animalistically, and except her eyes are glowing.
Yeah, that
Great.
looked cool.
Those
yeah.
bits were really cool, and then the bit where suddenly she's clean and she's wearing the weird thing. That didn't. And then she morphs back into that to fight them, which makes a little sense.
I think what happened, boy.
Oh yeah,
no, but-
Incubus died and that depowered her, right? No,
No,
I
Yeah.
remember now.
But she got the heart already, so. Whatever.
Yeah, so getting back to what I was saying.
Sorry,
no, that's fine. That's fine. You're our guest. Okay, right.
we are a committee.
So my thing is, you're selling Joker as a central character. You're selling this whole gritty version of, this gritty superhero version of, say, the Expendables, for example, right? And they could have played that, straight through the movie. Make Joker the villain, or at least, if you didn't want him to be the villain, make somebody else, someone less powered, be the villain. But the thing is, when they started to bring in the whole magic elements with Enchantress, as soon as she comes into this, like, oh, well, now we could be all magical, so, But in that case, instead of making her the villain, why not make somebody else the villain,
Yeah.
But still,
Okay,
but-
so for
yeah.
me, that's the thing. As I say with the script, is that she should have been the end goal.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If anything, now. She is
Or
by,
at least a member of the team, at least for
yeah,
the
don't
Right, no, but I
don't
would
bring her
have us-
into the team and then
have her replace her.
have
That's
her
dumb.
just so. And
No, but
I didn't even
no.
feel like she was part of the team
No,
to begin
you
with.
don't want to two things. Either you have her be the end goal of the story, or have her be part of the team and nowhere near as strong as that. Because that going to Iran and coming back in a matter of moments is ridiculous.
It is.
That
it
is up. That is ridiculous.
Sure, they play it off for last, but that is
No, but
just
dude, that
ridiculous.
is like when you think about that for a second, that's like ridiculously powerful though.
Yeah.
And that is throw off the power dynamic of the
Yeah.
whole thing.
To me, kind of threw off the whole movie when they
Yeah.
brought in Enchantress. 'Cause it made everything all magical and superpowered.
But the idea of her being captured or getting the heart at the end, and Wonder Woman gets that at the end, and that's how the story ends up. Great, that would have been
Yeah.
fine.
and set up for a sequel.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's Enchantress in the story. No, cool. Da 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 da. Great.
Right.
But this,
And
what?
right, and here's the thing, and a lot of people will argue and say, well, it's a superhero movie, so why we have Killer Croc in it? And
No,
okay, Killer
fine.
Croc is not magical to begin with. He just has this
fine, yeah.
deformity. Okay. But
Diablo is.
Yeah, and Diablo and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So people will make the argument and say, well, all right, well, you have all these characters with all these amazing powers, so you have to have this big, gigantic villain who is so powerful and all that. You don't need to.
Not necessarily.
You're
Exactly.
introducing the team here, and then you're just giving them this big role all of a sudden.
I mean,
to-
Guardians is a heist movie, more or less. Guardians of the Galaxy is more or less a heist movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's kind of stuff where they're having to fight people and they got Ronan the Accuser, but it's not it's on the right level. I mean, for example, and again, progression.
Yeah, it's sci-fi. You could argue it's sci-fi, so you could get away with that. But
Yeah.
just that whole, what I'm saying is just that whole, like, it's starting off like, sort of grounded reality with, Joker and Harley Quinn and, Deadshot to extent.
Yeah.
And then it's slowly becoming more magical and then more, it stops being gritty and then it becomes more like, okay, well, we just gonna be all fantastical with it. And okay, urban fantasy, we could argue it's like that, but it just doesn't do it in a unique way, in a different way. It's just like I was saying, it could have done the whole gritty Escape from New York vibe where you're just going to do this task, but then you want to bring in all these sort of zombified soldiers, and then it turns to then it just kind of degenerates into Resident Evil. And let me just argue, guys, last act sloppy as hell. That's when everything when everything just got all flashy and super powered. It just kind of brought the whole film down. It's like you're going for this gritty approach, and then you have Joker in it, but then now you only want to be all super powered. Then why bring in Joker in the first place? It kind of throws everything off. You know, and that was the main thing why, to me, that was like the biggest flaw. The tone of it. Yeah. You're trying to be gritty, grounded in reality, and then lo and behold, we being all like, not even superheroic, magical and all flashy and stuff. And it just didn't work for me. Even when they brought in Katana and this whole talking to Sword thing, just out of the blue, she just talks to Sword because her husband Soul is there.
No, but what's tripping?
Why? Because
why that part was dumb is that she had emotion and crying over the thing. I was like, she's not supposed to be like stoic and
And then, she would just stop and cry like, and talking in Japanese, like, really? But
all you had to do was have her. All you had to do. Get rid of the scene where she killed. Get rid of the scene where she kills the Yakuza boss.
Right.
Get rid of the explanation, and just before they go into battle, take her mask off for the only time in the movie. Say something in Japanese to the Sword that we don't understand. Close it. Go in.
Yeah.
There.
She's silent.
Done.
You see. Yeah. Right.
No, we don't know. Don't even give us subtitles, so we know. And don't have Rick Flag explained Deadshot.
Right. So I'll round up here. So when you really look at it, when all the smoke clears and all that jazz, all the flash and all that, it's just style over substance. I love the style in it. Don't get me wrong. I love the visual cues and the colors and stuff every once in a while. I love the little text that shows up. That's great, but no substance, unfortunately. Yeah. When they have moments of characterization, it's just, we're just gonna give like a little 2-3 minutes, and that's the only characterization you get. And then later on, you'll get little glimpses, and then especially like with Diablo example. Diablo is a perfect example. All the time he's being reserved, and then he just unleashes hell, right, literally. And then it's only when all this stop for a break at this bar that we get this moment where you see him and his wife and daughter, and then I'm supposed to feel for him now at that particular moment near the end of the movie. Yeah, come on. But when all is said and done, this is just another example of what it's literally a copy of what was wrong with Batman v Superman, where they had too much ideas and just put everything in this blender. Like look at Guardians of the Galaxy. Everybody would love to compare this movie here, Suicide Squad, to Guardians of the Galaxy. Look how much characters were in the actual Guardians of the Galaxy. About 4 or 5, right?
Yeah, as I say.
And this one is about 9, and then you took
too many characters.
Maybe the 10th one, and then just turn her into a villain just like that.
I mean, here's the thing. And by the end of the movie, how many members of the squad do we have left?
Yeah.
We've got about 4.
Exactly. You didn't really get at
Croc, Boomerang, Deadshot. They break out Harley Quinn. Flag is kind of, we don't know.
Right, true.
Moon is...
You didn't really get that much of a dynamic between them, and then
I don't know about that.
Right, and well, they had some chemistry. I'll give them some chemistry.
The one person they didn't quite work with was Enchantress, and that's because they didn't give enough scenes. Because what I think this movie's great strength is because David Ayer worked so hard to make sure this cast all got on with each other. I mean, because you can even see it in there was a picture in early production of this movie when they had the DCEU people all posed for a real group shot, like in this Marvel-sized group shot, and all the people involved. Batman vs Superman are standing there, kind of smiling, looking, polite and everything, and they're sort of, Hollywood, hi everyone. And then over to the side, all the Suicide Squad people are all posing and doing these big things and giving each other bunny ears and grinning from ear to ear and stuff. Right. And for me, that you can feel that in the movie. I mean, the bits when they're working off each other are always quite funny.
That's fine. That's really because of the cast. Cast is really what sells the movie. For better or for worse, yeah. Yep. Although I still find that Killer Croc was kind of underwhelming character for me.
I will fight you there, but hey. I love him. He was one of my favorites.
I like her. No, every time he came in, I was just like doing. Yeah. And that's all he did.
For me, everything he said was like a mic drop moment.
Yeah. But I don't know. I really think it just has to do because of the fact that both BVS and Suicide Squad were maybe filmed around the same time. Yeah. So it's not like some exec came in and said, you know what, stop what you're doing, look over that script. You sure that's what you really want to make? You sure you're satisfied with it? You sure you like the idea? Or in the editing room, you sure you like the fact that Joker is only there for like 5 scenes? You don't think people are going to be pissed off by it? Because, I mean, you're putting his name after Will Smith at the end credits, people are going to be pissed. Yeah. And I was. And it's just how they sold the film. And, you know, if they were going for this fantastical thing, they could have at least shown it in the trailers.
Yeah.
If Joker wasn't supposed to be this big character, then kind of minimize the amount of time he's given in these trailers. But I mean, don't just come and just sell us one thing and then you come and we get something else.
Yeah.
And think, oh, because the cast is there and oh, Margot Robbie is so sweet and all that, Will Smith so charismatic, I'm supposed to like the show. Don't get me wrong, there were moments where I enjoyed it for what it was. The actors sold it, you know, like I said before. There were some moments like, you know, like the action scenes where I was like invested and stuff, but still it was just it was just one of those things like, you know, they had potential. It was just this wasted effort. You know, it could have been way better than what it was.
Yeah, I agree with that.